Welcome back to the live show. It is your boy Genesis. I am back like I never left. I told you I was going to come back here in about 9 hours, and that was around, say, 1 or 2 p.m. It is currently 10:10 p.m. 10 minutes past 10 p.m. And today's date is the 3rd of November 2024. Yes, the year is going to an end. And of course, in 2 days, we are going to find out who the 47th President of the United States is. Question: did you go out to vote yet? Are you planning on going tomorrow, Monday? Or are you planning on going on election day, Tuesday? Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. You guys are the best. The title of today's stream, well, tonight's stream, because we've had two streams tonight. The title for this stream is titled Believe in Yourself. Believe in yourself. All right, time to pull the polls up. The polls are going up right now. Yes. Believe in yourself, guys. Believe in your dreams. Like I always say, never give up on yourself. Believe in your dreams, because if you don't believe in your dreams, who's going to believe in your dreams for you? Sometimes, occasionally, you find people who really believe in you more than you believe in yourself. Those people, I consider them to be angels on earth. Okay. Angels on earth. But it is really rare to find people like that who believe in you more than you believe in you. You know what I mean? God sent, basically. All right, C. Shelley, I see you. Shout out to C. Shelley. Chelsea Blackwell, you know what time it is. Thank you for tuning in. Chelsea said, I voted by mail. Absolutely wonderful. God bless you. God bless you. All right. It is what it is. You know what time it is. We're back for another live stream. And today we're going to start with the legendary, the 45th. Most people say will be the 47th. I don't know. That's my opinion. Like I've always said, I believe, in my opinion, he will be the 47th. Okay. Trump had a rally in battleground, Georgia. You ready for that one? I think that's the last rally for tonight. He had three rallies today: Pennsylvania, Georgia, and some other city. I don't really know. I'm going to check it out and I'm give you more update. But we're going to start with the last one, which is the one he just finished up about 10, 20 minutes ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 45th President of the United States, the legendary Donald J. Trump. Let's get it.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you, I love this state. I love Georgia. I love Georgia. And I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible place with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are. You are hardworking. You're great. We know how good you are. And we're bringing this country back fast. We're going to bring it back fast. I'd like to begin by asking you a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. And I will bring back the American dream. We're going to bring back the American dream. We're just 2 days away from what will be the most important political event in the history of our country. I believe that. But you have to do one little thing. I don't want your money. I don't want anything. The only thing I want is get out and vote. Just get out, finish it. You know, we're on the 5-yard line, maybe even the 1-yard line. We're right there. We had a tremendous number of early votes, a record-setting number, records like nobody can believe. Thank you. But all I can say is on Tuesday, just go out and vote, and we're going to close this thing out, and it's going to be party time. It's going to be party time. And this is really all you need to know. Kamala broke it, and I'll fix it, and we'll do it very quickly. America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. We start from a very bad place. We're a nation in decline. We're a nation in decline like we've never seen a decline. What they've done to our beautiful country is just so horrible. And we have so many senators, so many congressmen and women, and we have so many great people in the audience, and they're working with me. We're going to bring this back like never before. Nobody's going to believe it. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to bring it back so fast. This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. This will be the golden age of America. What a beautiful, isn't that a beautiful term? Think of that, the golden age. This will be the golden age of America. Think of that, how beautiful that sounds, and it's true. Remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than Saudi Arabia, than Russia, than anybody. And I told a great guy, RFK Jr., Bobby, I said, Bobby, you work on women's health, you work on health, you work on what we eat, you work on pesticides, you work on everything. The one thing you have to let me do, Bobby, I got to work the liquid gold. You're not going to touch that. We don't want too much advice. We don't want too much advice, Marco, on the liquid gold. We're going to pay off our debt. We're going to do things that you wouldn't believe, and we're going to give you, I gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. You'll get still more. We're going to make our country so competitive. On Tuesday, you have to stand up and tell Kamala or Harris. You know, when I say Harris, nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about. I said, Harris was out tonight. Who's Harris, sir? Nobody knows who she is. But on Tuesday, you have to stand up and tell Harris that you've had enough. You can't take it anymore. You're the worst vice president in the history of our country. It's the worst administration in the history of our country. Kamala, you're fired. Get out. Get out. You're fired. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is a big place. This place is packed, and you have more people outside. I always ask this, would anybody like to give up their ticket to somebody outside? No? Would anybody like to hand over their gun to Kamala? Is there anybody, one person in this giant, tens of thousands of people, one person would like to hand out their gun? You'd be famous for the rest of your life. That's what she wants. She wants to confiscate your guns, you know that. With your vote, we are going to win Georgia. We are going to defeat Kamala, and we are going to make America great again. Over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon its people. What she has done is not acceptable. It's so bad. She has violated her oath, eradicated our sovereign border, and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants. I mean, we have migrants pouring in here by the tens of thousands that are criminals from jails, from mental institutions, terrorists. They come from mental institutions, and they come from insane asylums, and they come from all around the world, from Venezuela to the Congo. Lots of people coming from the jails of the Congo, stealing countless American lives, and they do nothing about it. These are open borders. They come in totally unchecked and unvetted. Just days ago, right here in your state, an incredible 25-year-old mom, beautiful mom, named Mimi Rodriguez Ramirez, was kidnapped from a Walmart parking lot, a parking lot that was safe. She was horribly abused and murdered, violently murdered. A week later, her body was dumped on a road, was found by the police in condition that they said they've never seen anything like that before. The animal who murdered Mimi was an illegal alien who came to Georgia to maim and kill people. It made no difference who they were. Mimi leaves behind a 9-year-old daughter and her absolutely wonderful mother, Carmen. Yesterday, my friend, a very wonderful man and a very patriotic and philanthropic man, said he had the fortune to make a lot of money, and he gives a lot of his money away. He's just very amazing. In fact, he made contributions to Georgia with your hurricane problems, and he made tremendous contributions to North Carolina, Alabama. Think of all these states, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida. What a horrible thing that was. But my friend's name is Steve Witkoff, and he reached out to Carmen when he heard about it. And I'd like to ask Steve, he doesn't know I'm going to do this, and he may not want to speak in front of 40,000 people because I don't know if he's ever done it before. But Steve is just this incredible guy, and if it's okay with you, Steve, I'd love to have you come up and say some wonderful things about Mimi and Carmen and that incredible family that's been decimated. Steve Witkoff.
Hello, everyone. The president is a lifelong friend of mine, and he is one of the best men I have ever known. I speak about him often, and I like to tell people about his humanity, his sensitivity, his empathy. I am a member of a very bad club. It's the club of parents who have buried their children. When my son Andrew died, there was one person who supported me unconditionally. That was President Trump and his wife, Melania. We were having a conversation, and I told the president that my son Andrew leads me to others who have been in distress. Several days ago, that happened again. As a member of this audience, Josh McCoon, who you heard earlier, was a great guy, told me about a Georgia woman, Mimi, who had been murdered. I told the president the circumstances, and he was shaken. He asked me what we could do about it and told me to reach out to the family and do whatever we could. I flew to their home tonight to pick them up and bring them here, and they are here tonight. Distraught and sad, but I believe uplifted, and they are Trumpers and have voted for him in this election, all of them. because they remain hopeful, as they told me earlier, that even after this terrible tragedy, this president, when he becomes president on Tuesday, can bring us out from the abyss. Let me tell you briefly about Mimi's family. They are hardworking, from Puerto Rico, living in Georgia, making a home for themselves. They never imagined their beautiful daughter would be killed by someone who did not belong in this country. On your behalf, Mr. President, we have raised their family money and we have given it to them tonight. And we will watch after them in the future. I can promise you that, at your direction. Carmen, please come up to meet the next President of the United States.
Thank you. My name is Carmen Ramirez. I'm the mother of Minelli Zoe Rodriguez Ramirez. She was murdered the last Tuesday. I lose my daughter, but I don't lose my faith. And I know Donald Trump is the best choice for the USA. And not the best choice. He's the only one we need to save our country. I just want to let you know that everybody have to go and vote. Because just for talking and don't vote, we don't do nothing. Take your friends, take your children, 18 years old. Everybody have to vote. Because that's the only way we're gonna save us country. Okay? And I want to let you know that Donald Trump is not a choice. It's just the number one. And Jesus let me come over here today to let you know that I have a 25 years daughter with a lot of life. And somebody stop her life. And we have to stop with this and keep going with Donald Trump. I meet Donald Trump in person. He's the most wonderful person that I see, that I know right now. He helps us. He be with us all the time as this happen. And he always be there for my family. That's why we always got to be for him all the time. Thank you for everything. Thank you, and don't forget to go and vote. God bless America. Please make America great again.
Wow, what a job. What beautiful words. Can you imagine? I don't think it's her first language, and she spoke better than any person whose language is that particular language? That was incredible. Wow. And I can tell you, Carmen, that Mimi is looking down on you right now, and she is so proud. She's up there in the beautiful sky, well beyond the clouds, and she is so proud of you. What a job you did. Well, it's not easy either. Can you imagine? Through the grief to do something like that. And we are so sorry for your loss. It's unbelievable. We're going to get that stopped. We're going to stop it. This is happening every day. Soon it'll be every hour. It's just, we're going to stop it. We hold Mimi in our hearts forever. And we'll be your friend, Carmen. We'll be your friend and your family's friend. Thank you. Thank you very much. These terrible atrocities against our citizens are happening every single day in cities and towns all across America. I want you to hear directly from another mom, great mom also, wonderful woman who I met just a week ago. Border Patrol gave me this incredible endorsement. They said he's the greatest president in the history of our country. I said, does that include Lincoln, Washington? And yes, sir. But then I told the story, but then one of the guys got up and he's 37 years old. He said, he's the greatest president in my lifetime. I didn't like that. He was 37 years. I like the other one much better. The greatest ever. No, the Border Patrol is great. They're incredible people, and they gave us a full-throated endorsement. And they have every year, frankly. They always endorse me, and they're incredible patriots. Them and ICE and law enforcement and our sheriffs. Our sheriffs are great. Police all over the country. They are really respected by everybody, but they don't understand because they don't get treated properly. And we're going to treat them properly, and they're going to solve our crime problem very easily. It's what they want to do. They're dying, you know what? They're dying to do it. They watch these stores being robbed, guys walking out with refrigerators, 500 thugs going into a department store, cleaning it out, some of them with refrigerators on their back. And they want to do something, but they're told to stand down, don't even think about it. You'll lose your pension, you'll lose your house. You lose all your money, you lose your family. And we're going to free them up to stop the crime in our cities and stop the crime in our country. And they know, I have to say, you know, somebody said, well, how would you do this? Because obviously we have to deport these murderers and drug dealers and terrorists. We have terrorists coming into our country at levels we've never seen before. You know, in 19, if you look at the numbers issued by the Border Patrol, in 2019, a Trump year, and I don't even agree with these numbers. They said I had 0 terrorists. Oh, by the way, bring down that board, please. Just my favorite board in the whole world. My favorite board in the whole world. I assume it's up there. Is it up there, Mike? So I love that chart. I love that graph. I sleep with it every night. I hold it tight. But it saved me, because if I didn't make that sharp turn to the right to look at it, I would not be with you tonight. So if you look at the arrow on the bottom, that was my last day in office. And after I left, all they had to do is leave it the way it was, remain in Mexico. You think it was easy to get Mexico to say, oh, sure. They said no. They laughed at me when I first proposed it. And within about 10 minutes, they were saying, we would love to do it, sir. I said, I'm going to put tariffs on every car and everything you send into the United States if you don't do it. And they not only that, they gave us thousands, tens of thousands of soldiers free of charge, everything free. I wanted it free. And tremendous crime is coming through. But that was in 2019. They said we allowed 0 terrorists. It had terrorists 0. And it was good, but I think it has to be a little bit. But the following year, it was 16 or 19 terrorists. Now it's thousands of terrorists. They're coming from the Middle East and all over the world. Some of the worst in the world. We know the names. We have no idea where they are. But our local law enforcement does, you know. People say, well, how are you going to ever find? Our local sheriffs and law enforcement people are incredible, and they're dying to do the job. And they know their middle names. They know their addresses, where they come from. They know everything, and they're going to help us. And we're going to have the largest deportation of criminals in history. But I want you to hear directly from another incredible mother whose world has been shattered just recently also because Kamala led savage, illegal alien murders into our country through the open border. She has an open border, unvetted, unchecked, an open border. Please.
Sunday night, I asked her to not stay up super late because of her coming to work with me in the morning first to do her summer school. She said, okay. I told her good night and I love you. I went to bed, not realizing that that was going to be the last time I saw her.
We're best friends.
Yeah. We're going to shake it again.
I woke up to notice she wasn't in her bed. I'm in my heart trying not to lose my mind because I don't know where she is. I finally remembered her phone had a location on, and her phone was pinging just 2 minutes down the road, right behind the skate park. I start driving to the direction the phone was being pinged at, and I see a couple cop cars with lights on. I see yellow tape, and immediately my heart drops and sinks to the bottom of my stomach. My daughter's hands and ankles were both bound. She was strangled to death, left with no pants. And I know in my heart, she fought incredibly hard. She was not going down without a fight.
We begin with two men we're learning are charged with capital murder tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
Apprehended, then released by Border Patrol less than 3 weeks before Jocelyn's death. The men accused of killing Jocelyn Nungare are affiliated with the gang known for brutal violence.
Kamala Harris was in charge of immigration in our borders. If we had better border policies and not open borders and not these catch and release policies, I truly believe this all could have been prevented. Under her being vice president of this country, my daughter's life was ripped away from her. She had her entire life ahead of her.
Happy birthday, dear Jocelyn.
My daughter is 6 feet in the ground based off of policies that she allowed to keep. Kamala Harris did have one job, and she not only failed, not me, she failed my daughter. She failed Jocelyn. You know, she was only 12. President Trump reached out, gave me his sincerest condolences as not a former president, but just as a father, someone who cares. I believe Donald Trump needs to be back in office. I can at least know that my next child will be safe in this country.
But isn't that just terrible? And this is taking place thousands of times a year, different forms, different ages, different types of crime, but ultimately ending in all cases in death, needless death. The day I take the oath of office, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins immediately. And when you vote on Tuesday, remember this: Kamala is importing illegal alien rapists and murderers, draconian monsters who are killing our children, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our friends. They're willing to kill anyone willing to kill anyone. These people, they are true evil. When I win, I will not let these animals into our country any longer. I will not let them spill one more drop of precious American blood. And I just want to thank you, Carmen. And Jocelyn was so incredible. The mother is devastated. It's like devastated. She was devastated. You can never really be the same, can you? Just people say, oh, time. Sometimes with time, a lot of times with time, it only gets more difficult. The United States is now an occupied country. Think of that. We're an occupied country. This is thousands of people all over our towns and cities, countryside, having military-grade weapons, sometimes higher than military grade. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Where the hell did those weapons come from, right? But it will soon be an occupied country no longer. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. Can you imagine? I'm saying our towns have been invaded and conquered, and that's what they are. Take a look at Aurora in Colorado. It's been invaded and conquered. And we have a radical left governor of Colorado who doesn't know what to do. I know what to do. And we will put the vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail. But first, we're going to see if it works out. We're going to kick them the hell out of our country because we don't want to take care of them. And to expedite removals of Tren de Aragua and other savage gangs like MS-13, equally violent. They like using knives to cut people up because knives are much more painful than a bullet. They did it in Long Island. You remember 2 young girls walking to school in the morning, beautiful 16-year-old girls. And they were grabbed by MS-13 and they were sliced into pieces and killed. And all I can say, it's really good that we have great law enforcement out there and that we were able to call ICE because ICE took care of business. They took care of business. And Kamala wants to defund ICE. Think of that. She wants to. She said, she said, they're not nice people. They better not be nice people. They're nice people. They're going to have a lot of problems with living, but they are tough as hell, but they love our country equally as much. They love our country so much. They just want to be able to do their job. So ICE and Border Patrol and all of you, sheriffs and law enforcement officers, and yes, firemen and sanitation men and you are on the A-list, all of you. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Can you imagine? That's when they ran it a little tougher. They weren't so politically correct in 1798. To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America immediately. And as we secure our borders, we will also rescue our horrendous, you saw the numbers on Thursday, horrendous economy. Yes, it's that bad. I always said that if it's going to happen, let it happen on their terms. The numbers were the worst that I've ever seen. 4 years of Kamala and Sleepy Joe have delivered nothing but economic hell. for American workers. Her inflation disaster has made life unaffordable and cost families over $30,000 a year in higher prices. That's inflation. That's what it's done. You know, inflation in a lot of quarters is called a country buster. It's a country buster. It busted Germany many, many years ago. Germany was busted with rampant inflation. It's a country breaker, country buster like almost nothing else. And yet, it's number one rated on the polls, inflation and the economy. And what you just saw with beautiful, beautiful Jocelyn, Mimi, and Carmen, what you just saw is number two. No, I don't think so. I think number one is stopping these people from destroying our country and stopping them right now. We'll handle inflation. We'll handle inflation. You know how we're going to handle it. We're going to drill. We're going to get energy costs so low. We're going to get you. We have more than any other country. More oil and gas. I call it liquid gold. That's what it is. That's why I say, Bobby, please enjoy yourself. Just leave the liquid gold to me, please. We're going to pay off debt. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. They got the biggest tax cut ever, biggest regulation cuts ever. We had a great administration. And I will say that I got you into no wars with countries that you've never heard of. And yet I defeated ISIS. I rebuilt our military and I defeated ISIS in about 4 years less than these stupid generals like Milley and Kelly and Mattis. Sir, it'll take approximately 5 years to defeat ISIS. I bet we did it in about 4 weeks with the real generals. Just this week, we had the worst jobs report in modern history. So the reason I put it second on the list is I wanted you to meet these incredible mothers and these unbelievable families that are just decimated because it's number one. It will always be number one to me because I'm good at this stuff. I'll handle inflation. You'll be making so much money. All of a sudden, it'll just be beautiful. Because if we get your energy costs and your interest rates and a couple of things down, it'll be even better than it was. You know, we had the greatest, strongest economy in the history of our country. We're going to do it again, but even better. And now I know Washington. Now I know, because I went to Washington very few times in my life. I didn't know anybody. Think of that. I became president of the United States and I didn't know anybody in Washington. That's a problem. So I had to rely on rhinos and some others and some very good people too. And we had a lot of great people. Look, our trade deals have been unbelievable. Nobody can believe it even. And so many other things. Our right to try, one of the greatest things, right to try. We got so much done. All the regulation cuts. We approved more regulation cuts than any president in history times 5. That's why you had the great job. That's why you had the great job numbers. And it's really why we were the envy of the world. We were going at levels that nobody's ever seen. We got hit by the China virus and we took care of it. We did a great job. You know, we turned it over with the stock market higher than it was previous to the virus coming in. I mean, it was sort of an amazing thing. Nobody had ever heard about this. Nobody knew anything about it. All we knew that all over the world, lots of people were dying, and we did a great job. Never got credit for that. Got credit for the great economy. Got credit for knocking out ISIS and having no wars. I'm the only president in 82 years I had no wars. Remember crooked Hillary Clinton? She said, look at him, he'll create wars. Look at him, look at his attitude. Look at him, he's going to create wars. I said, no, my attitude is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened because they respected us. They respected us. But just this week, we had the worst jobs report in modern history with only 12,000 anemic jobs created. And much of that was government jobs. We had nothing. You know, usually we hear 200,000 jobs were created, 250, 300, 350, 190, 100, 12,000. And they thought they could hold this report till after the election. and somebody released it, a whistleblower or somebody released it, but they released something far more sinister, because if you go back a few weeks, you remember they created 818,000 fake jobs. They didn't exist, and they put them down as though they did, so that instead of having today's problem, which is 12,000, which is like terrible, it looked okay. Not great, but it looked okay. So they created 818,000 fake jobs, and it was revealed 2 weeks ago, and the fake news media hardly picked it up. What a shame. That's a lot of fake news. Look at that. That's a lot. Wow. That's a lot of fake news, Mr. Chairman. That's a lot, huh? I can't believe it. You know, they hate me, but ratings predominate. For the networks, ratings predominate over hate. But think of what they did. 818,000 fake. And then last week they had to revise the figures from the previous month, 112,000. So that's almost 1 million fake jobs. I call them fraudulent. Fake isn't strong enough. And they did that hoping that all of you people wouldn't have a chance to see before you pull the lever on Tuesday. But a whistleblower released the information on the 800,000 jobs plus. The whistleblower said, you know, there were not 800,000 and 18,000. You add them up, and then you add 100, think of it, 112,000 jobs. So you're close to 1 million jobs. And the whistleblower, I never loved the idea of whistleblowing, but in this case, I liked it very much. But they thought it would be very unfair to go through an election. Somebody was being fair. They thought it would be very unfair. Could you imagine if those numbers, we have the election, and let's say there's a bad result, and then 3 days later they say that almost 1 million jobs were not created. We would say they were fraudulent. They were fraudulent, by the way. If that were a Republican doing that, they'd probably be in jail by now. But you also had 30,000 private sector jobs that were killed in a single month, and nearly 100,000 manufacturing jobs. This just came out on Thursday, that were wiped out since the start of the year. And those manufacturing jobs, they're important to us as a country. 150,000 Americans joined the unemployment rolls in October, close to a record. And nearly 250,000 people dropped out of the labor force. Can you believe this? And these are the numbers. And I did say that if they've got to be released, let them release it before the election. These numbers are all public. They've been released. Meanwhile, a statistic that a lot of people are going to hate hearing, but that's the way it is. Meanwhile, 100% of the net jobs created in the last year have gone to migrants. The migrants have gotten every single job plus that was created illegally here. Many of them are illegal, and many of them are murderers, and many of them are terrorists. They're taking the job. And you know who they're taking the jobs from? The black population mostly. It'll start hitting the Hispanic population. But right now, and the other thing that you should demand, everybody in this room should demand it in front of the fake news right now. They should demand it because they put no pressure on these crooked politicians. You should demand that they give you the numbers of how many black people are going to lose their job. The African American population, they're getting fired at numbers that we have never seen before. And migrants that are here illegally are coming in and taking their job. And they have homes and mortgages, and they have things to pay, and they've worked there for 10 and 15 and 20 years, and they're losing their jobs. And frankly, the Hispanic are next. I hear that that's what's happening. But the Hispanics are next. And unions are going to be seriously affected too, very seriously. The unions know that this is a big problem. So think of what they've done. They've allowed people to come in by the millions, 21 million people. I think it's much more than that. And then you have the gotaways. You know what the gotaways are? It's the people that don't want to be looked at at all. So they're worse than the people we're seeing. That's why they don't want to be looked at. These are depression-type numbers, 1929 depression-type numbers. And I never wanted to be, I always told people, I would have hated to be the president of the United States in 1929 when you had the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover, I would not want to be Herbert Hoover. What a time that was. People jumping off buildings. And that's where we're headed, because we have leadership that's incompetent. We have low IQ people, and we need very, very, very high IQ people. Under my leadership, we are quickly going to turn this economic nightmare into an economic miracle. Wait till you see how fast we're going to get it going. We'll get the prices down. Don't forget, you could stop inflation, but the bacon is still at the all-time high, and the lettuce and the apples. There's a story that should never happen in this country. An old woman goes into the grocery store and she takes 3 apples. That's what she lives on. And she brings it up to the counter, and then they tell her the price of the apples. And she says, I'm sorry. Then she takes 1 apple and brings it back to the refrigeration area, puts it back in, and comes and pays for 2 apples. This should never be happening in our country. This should never be happening. We will make America wealthy again, and we will make America affordable again. Big problem. So we're 2 days away from the best jobs and the biggest paychecks and the brightest economic future the world has ever seen. Kamala talks about fixing the economy, but why doesn't she do it? She said the other night, yes, I'm going to fix the economy. Why the hell don't you do it? She's always saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. The best was today, though. She was going to fix something else. When I got into office in January, do it now. What are you waiting for? It's all a big con. She's not going to do anything. She's incapable of doing it. Kamala's plan will impose the largest tax hike in American history and raise taxes on the typical American family of 4 or 5 by more than $3,000 a year. Congratulations. You know, all my life, I've always found politics fascinating. I never knew I'd be a politician. I still like to try and get away with saying I'm not. But I guess after 9 years, I guess I am. It's all right. But you know, all my life, I've watched politicians run for office. And all my life, they've been talking about cutting taxes. We will cut taxes. We will cut taxes. And oftentimes it turned out, frankly, they weren't able to do it, or it wasn't true, but they turned out. But I've never seen a politician run and say, we're going to raise your taxes and have people vote for them. We are going to raise your taxes. You're paying far too much already. And we are going to cut your taxes substantially, and it's going to be helped by lowering interest and by oil and gas. And by the most beautiful word in history, tariff. We're going to tariff the hell out of countries that have been taking advantage of us and stealing our jobs, stealing our companies. My plan will be massively to cut taxes for workers. We're going to cut their taxes and small businesses, and we will have, quite simply, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors. And to rapidly reduce inflation, I will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby drill, frack, frack, frack. We're going to go to town. And I know those guys are, they don't call them wildcatters for nothing. They'll be drilling it so fast. Just the concept of what's going to happen on Tuesday, we're way ahead. I'm not supposed to say that. My people say, please don't say that, sir. They'd like me to say that, yeah, we're a little bit behind, but if you get out, look, here's the story. You have to get it out. You have to vote Tuesday. It's all Tuesday. You got to show up in numbers that you've never seen before. And we don't need those kind, but you know what? We want to have so many votes that we can really do what we have to do to make our country great, to fix our country. We don't want to have and you know, it would be nice, it's obviously not necessary, but it would really be nice to have more votes than they do, because typically it's not great mathematics, because you take a place like Gavin Newsom in California. Did you see that his poll numbers have absolutely collapsed? Did you see that, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Did you see that? Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in history. But Gavin, his poll numbers are, what the hell's happening? What happened to his poll? But all of these people, they're just taxing you out. But the worst is, I was talking to Elon Musk. How great is Elon Musk? When I saw that rocket ship come in a week ago, I'm looking and I told the story twice. I'm looking at that rocket ship and I'm on the phone with a very important person, very, very important. Even all these senators, even Herschel Walker would be impressed with him. Not that, Herschel wouldn't be that impressed. Herschel is, by the way, you're the greatest, Herschel. What a good man. They didn't treat him fairly. They didn't treat him fairly. You know, Herschel was very fast, very big, very fast, but he would always run around. But if perchance you couldn't run around, he would run through people I've never seen. He would carry 4 coal miners' sons on his back for like 12 yards. They didn't know what, they're banging him, they couldn't touch him. Really, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 in the history of football. We were really great. Remember, they played here in your state, the ballad to Herschel Walker. They're playing the ballad to that guy. And all he wanted to do is play football. He's a good person with a great wife and family and everything. And we love that you're here, Herschel. And as good as that Georgia team is, if Herschel was playing on it, they'd be very happy. Then we could guarantee it, but he's a special guy. He's a good guy. Really a great guy, smart guy too. So they would take all of the things that we're doing and they put them into a hopper, and what they do is destroy our country, and we're not going to let it. We're going to bring it back. We're going to create millions and millions of jobs. We're going to get those countries and to leave our companies alone. We're not going to do it. And if you're going to play games and if you're going to steal from us, our companies, and give us unemployment and busted companies, we're not going to let it happen. And if it does happen, we're going to tariff you the hell out of business. We're not going to let it happen. It's not going to happen. And just one quick story. In Mexico, they're building the largest auto plant in the world. A friend of mine told me that he's a builder of auto plants. That's all he does. That's all he's good at. Frankly, he tells me if you said to build an apartment, he would be no good, but he can build a massive plant. He's the best. And he was telling me about a year ago that China is going to build a massive auto plant in Mexico, and they're going to sell the cars into the United States. And I think he said that the capacity would be literally, this would be bigger than what they have in Michigan, the state. This is a monster, but it'll put all our auto workers out of business, everyone out of business. And I didn't like that when I heard that. And I was up in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club. By the way, isn't it nice that you have a president that doesn't have to use a teleprompter? I haven't looked at that damn teleprompter. Isn't it nice? Isn't that nice? But I said to him, John, let me ask you, I want to see a plant. I just want to see, why do you want it? I just want it because, I think I'm going to do well if I run again. So I want to see it. This was a year ago. He said, well, thank you, darling. He said, well, you'll have to come to Mexico because we're not doing the big ones here. We're doing plants, but not the big ones. I said, no, they should be doing the big ones here. He said, well, it's not happening anyway. So I said, I'm not going to Mexico. I don't want to go to Mexico, even though they did what I asked them to do. They always did. They did. They were fine. But Mexico's a real threat because of what's going on. A real threat, economic threat. And China's going into Mexico because this way they don't have to float it across the seas. It's not going to happen. So I said to him, what's happening with that plant? I was making a speech a week ago, and I see the guy sitting right there with the guy with the blue shirt. See that nice looking guy right there? Right about there. Yeah, you can stand up if you want. You look like a nice, go ahead, stand up. Right there. Yeah, stand up. Right there. So I'm looking at the audience, and again, I'm in Detroit, and this has to do with cars. Very pertinent because cars are big manufacturing stuff, and you see all the jobs that they're losing now. I want to bring all of the car business back here. So he's sitting, I say, oh, that's John. That's the guy that told me about the plant. So I finish my speech and I send out for John. He comes backstage. I say, John, how's that plant coming on, that big monster plant that China's building? Sir, they've decided they're not going to build it because they think you're going to be elected president. And if you're elected president, you're going to put tariffs on all these cars of 100%. And they're not going to be able to sell one car into the United States. And I said to the state of Michigan, you're so lucky. No wonder I'm leading Michigan by a lot. No, but there's a big thing. I mean, I said you're going to be paying tariffs like you wouldn't believe, and it's not going to be economic, and and they think I'm going to win. And they say if he wins, it's going to be impossible. Because I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. No other president took in 10 cents. Barack Hussein Obama took in nothing. He just talks. He talks all the time. Talk. And a terrible thing happened 2 days ago. I've always treated his beautiful wife, Michelle, I've always treated her with great respect. But she hit me hard over the last. What was that, front row Joes? Look at the front row Joes. They've been to like 300 rallies. And this, by the way, look at this thing. 25,000 people standing outside. Look at it, to the back window. You know it's full when you have the back window and people are hanging out the window. Be careful, too. But this isn't a rally. You know what this is? This is a request to tell everybody just to go, please, just go and vote on Tuesday. This is not a rally. It should be a rally, but we want you to go vote. So I believe in America first. It's going to be America first. And you don't hear that often, but our country is going to be so successful. It's going to be so rich. Your taxes are coming down. Your jobs are going up. And we are going to indeed have an economic miracle. And it's not going to be that hard. And it's really something that others do to us, the smart ones. There are no dumb ones. We're the dumb one. I have never seen a good trade deal made. I changed the deal with Japan. I changed the deal with South Korea. I changed a lot of deals. But we're at a disadvantage because we had long-term deals. But I didn't care about that. I said, we're changing them. I don't care. I didn't care because I don't know how the hell they got those deals. Those deals, there's two ways those deals, it's like the voting stuff. There's two ways those deals were made. Either the person that made them was corrupt or stupid, because you had the worst trade deals ever made by any country ever. Anyway, we started changing that all around, and we were doing unbelievable. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We were leapfrogging and lapping China. China was going crazy with me. Please don't put any more tariffs on. I saved the steel industry. If I didn't they were dumping steel. You remember that. If I didn't do that, you would have no steel. And by the way, I don't want U.S. Steel, the greatest company in the world 70 years ago, to be sold to Japan. I just don't want that to happen. Everything Kamala says is a lie. She has no vision, no ideas, and she has absolutely no solutions. But take a look at this for a second, because this is just terrible. Take a look.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I will speak about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, 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 Donald Trump.
Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen. Let's get the likes up, okay? All you have to do to get the likes up is double tap your screen, like Popo. 1, 2. Double tap your screen. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get the subscription up. And we're currently listening to the former president, the 45th, who most people say will be the 47th. I don't know, but I believe he will be the 45th. That is the 47th. That is my opinion. Let me know what you think.
Donald Trump, Trump.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it, Marco. So, no, this was the other night. She made a speech. Every sentence was about me. Our great First Lady said, "Darling, are you okay?" I could. They asked her about the economy. Donald Trump. No. They've been there for 4 years, the whole thing. What they did to this country is record-setting, and especially at the border, because that inflation's going to come roaring down. You know, as soon as we open up the gas spigot, the oil and gas, you know, we had $1.84. You know, I used to say $1.87. I was corrected by the government manuals. So I said, I'll take it 3 cents. But we had $1.84 gasoline. Do you like that? How does that sound? Today you're at $3.75, but if anything happened with the election, you'd be at $7, $8, $9 a gallon. Kamala's campaign is running on nothing but hate and demonization, calling half of America garbage. You saw Joe. Do you think they were happy with Joe the other night? His people are garbage. They are garbage. Oh, I said, oh, is he screwed now with them? He says, Sarah, that's lasted for about 5 days now. This is not good. And perhaps that's why we're leading by so much, but that's not really the reason. The reason is that first little question I put. We built a great, great economy, and their economy is terrible because of inflation, in all fairness, largely because of inflation, but if inflation's a real bad word. Meanwhile, Kamala says she would not do one thing differently from Joe Biden, which in itself is disqualifying. I wouldn't do one thing. How about the 325,000 children that are dead, missing, or slaves? She wouldn't do that different. Our country is almost at a 90% wrong track, the highest in the history of our country, and she says, oh, I would do nothing different. Take a look.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
Gut-wrenching new details in the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national who crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A 5th illegal immigrant accused of attacking 2 New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Can you believe it? Nothing. You know, a smart person would say, yeah, let's see, I'd strengthen up the border. I'd do something on inflation. I'd do that. You could say 20 different things. You couldn't think of anything. This is not what you want for your president. So if you want to end this disaster, you have to go out, get out and vote. And just in conclusion, we want to just introduce a few people that are incredible. They're really incredible. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, thank you for being here, Burt. Great guy. The great senator from Florida, And he's a tough guy. I had to compete against this guy. This guy was not easy. He's tough. He's tough and he's smart, and he's my friend Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. And former Senators David Perdue, he's working so hard, and Kelly Loeffler. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, David. Somebody I'm very proud of, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Representatives, warriors, by the way, Andrew Clyde, Austin Scott, Mike Collins, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And a guy who was great in the Mueller hearings. Remember, he was hitting up Mueller with so many questions. Mueller said, I don't know, I can't. Where the hell am I? Just after 2 years, he had no idea what was happening. And we were totally exonerated, by the way. Totally, 100% exonerated. But this man was great. You got to see his voice chiming through those beautiful, hallowed halls, screaming at Mueller. It was unfair competition. Former Congressman Doug Collins. Thank you, Doug. And candidates for Congress, Brian Jack. So Brian Jack. I hated when they took Brian Jack. They came to me and they said, we'd love to have Brian run his home district where he was born, raised. I said, look, between you and I, just tell him it's not available. I didn't want to lose him, but he figured it out. And I endorsed him so heartily. And he's a great gentleman, right, Chairman? He's a great gentleman. Brian Jack. It's an interesting name because, you know, with people, there aren't too many, but when people have that kind of a name, Brian Jack, a lot of people call him Jack Bryan. I asked him that question, and I said it doesn't really matter, you know, you get the idea. But Brian Jack is a great guy, and he's going to be a great congressman or whatever he wants to do for a long time to come. Thank you, Brian. And he worked for me, and he was always there. And also Wayne Johnson, going to be great. Wayne Johnson. And he's central. Look at that look he's got. Although looks don't mean anything, please remember that. Looks. You're not allowed to talk about looks anymore in this politically correct. He looks, especially if he were a woman, that would be bad. And you know, nowadays with this administration, you can become a woman if you'd like. I don't think you should. I have a feeling that he's going to take a pass. Do you believe what's happening with that whole situation? But I hear you're doing great, and you're going to be very successful, and you do indeed have the look, whether I'm supposed to say it or not, who cares? Thank you very much. Agriculture Commissioner, and he's a good one, Tyler Harper. Thank you, Tyler. He's a good one. And your incredible GOP chair, Josh McCoon, who is great. I don't want to talk about him too much, though, because, you know, if some crazy thing happens on Tuesday, I can't say, because then I'd say he didn't do a good job. But now he's done a great job, and I hear we're really in great shape, right? We have record-setting early voting, numbers that nobody's ever seen before. Can you believe that? I mean, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Republican Party never wins early. We'll be 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 votes behind, and that they consider that good. But it's just the opposite. We're hundreds of thousands of votes ahead. Nope, this has never happened before. But it all means nothing if you don't go out on Tuesday and vote. Right, Josh? We have to get them to vote. And of course, I just introduced him, the legendary Herschel Walker. We love Herschel. Thank you, Herschel. You look good, Herschel. I also want to send our prayers to everyone here in Georgia who's still recovering from Hurricane Helene. And I want to also thank you, Governor. He's been very gracious. He's working very hard on making sure that we win this vote on Tuesday. So I want to thank very much Brian. That's very good. That's really nice. Thank you very much. Everybody's working as a unit because winning this vote, and by the way, winning this state, we win this state and it's over. It's over. So get out there and do it. Kamala's hurricane response was a disgrace and actually a betrayal. It was just reported that almost 50% of phone calls to FEMA for disaster aid went totally unanswered. You know why? Because they spent their money on illegal aliens, people coming into our country illegally, many of them very bad people. So you cannot trust this person. Anybody doing that, you can't trust that person to be president. You had the worst hurricane like maybe ever. And boy, did North Carolina get hit, but you got hit really hard. And you had, and you know, I want to thank Elon Musk, okay? Because Elon, the head of North Carolina Rescue, and your governor, and also some of your people that did a really great job but had very little federal help, they asked, would it be possible for you to call Elon Musk? And he gave me the greatest endorsement ever. I mean, how good is it to get his? Because we like intelligent people. We got to protect our brilliant people. We don't have too many of them. And when I saw that rocket come down, the way it came down was so beautiful. Boom, right on the pad. He was unbelievable. I said, was that yours? Yes. Oh. Can Russia do it? No. Nobody can do it. China? No, nothing. Nobody can do it. And I said, he does something called Starlink. And the man from, very good official, by the way, state official, he's from North Carolina. He said, sir, could you call up Elon Musk? I know you have a good relationship. We want Starlink. I said, what the hell is Starlink? Tell me about it. It's a communication system. All of the wires in parts of Georgia, too. All of the wires are down, and it's very successful. It's very hard to get. We can't get them, and we need it. I mean, people are dying. They have no communication, and people are dying. And I called Elon. I said, Elon, you got to do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Do humanity. They got to get this thing you have called Starlink, and you got to get it fast, Elon. And I talked to him for a couple of seconds, literally, and I got a call from the guy from North Carolina thanking me for getting Starlink. I said, how the hell did you do that, Elon? He said, well, I can do two things at one time, can't I? And the following day, it got delivered to North Carolina, Georgia, and other places that needed it, and it's very hard to get. And I actually asked him, in all fairness, I got to give Elon a little boost. I actually asked him, well, how does that compare to the wires that have to go all the way down and ground and on poles and everything else? He said, actually, it's much better. So I said, got to rethink that whole situation. But Elon has been great in that way. You know where he is right now? He's campaigning for me in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Can you believe it? That rocket went up, and I mean, the thing was down for probably 30 minutes, and he announced he's going to, because he thinks this election is the most important thing maybe to ever. He doesn't think we're going to have a country left if a guy named Trump doesn't win this election. And he's a very smart guy. But how good is that? Think of it. He is campaigning for all of us. He's not campaigning for me. Thank you very much, sir. That's fine. It's all right. That's very good. I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. How can I get angry at this guy, right? Normally, I'd say, who the hell is in front of me with a sign? But that sign is okay, sir. That because he's up there and he's going to help us out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all right. Thank you very much. That's good. That's good. Isn't that nice, actually? See, now a stupid person would say, get the hell out of here. That would be the end of the night. That would be, Josh, that would be the end of the night, right? No, that's very nice, actually. So just in closing it out, here are some of the facts. Kamala is a radical left Marxist rated even worse than crazy Bernie Sanders or Pocahontas herself. She destroyed our economy. She was an original creator of defund the police. Think of that. And anyone who wants to defund our great police for even a day or a week is not worthy of being president of the United States, because that's their thinking, that's their ideology. Kamala vowed to abolish ICE. Can you believe it? Let's go, ICE, get out of here. We'll take care of these tough killers. She wouldn't do it. Tell you who wouldn't have the guts to do it. Liz Cheney wouldn't have the guts to do it. Liz Cheney, ooh. She's a big talker. We're going to put thousands of soldiers and they'll die. They'll all die. And I'll be sitting home with my dad, who ruined, think of all the people that are dead right now. And then they wonder why Kamala's doing so badly with the Arab Muslim population in Michigan. You see that? They're doing bad. Who the hell, if you're a Muslim Arab, you're from that part of the world, who the hell's going to vote for her? Her father unleashed a spree of death on all of their countries, and then she doesn't understand. See, I would say that Kamala's pick of Liz Cheney, Marjorie, is not the best. And they're wondering why they have virtually no votes from that particular community. I thought about it. It took me about a second. I said, wow, that's not a very good person to be campaigning with, I don't think. They went from 100% approval to about 4% now. And you know who's got the approval? Me, because I want to see peace all over the place. We had no wars. She pledged to confiscate your guns and endorse a total ban on handgun ownership. She ruined San Francisco, probably the greatest city in our country 20 years ago. She destroyed it. And she's not going to be allowed to destroy our country. She even called for free sex changes for illegal aliens in detention at taxpayers' expense. And perhaps, worst of all, she never worked at McDonald's. She never did. She lied about that. So with your vote on Tuesday, we're going to fire Kamala and we are going to save America. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories back to America and back to the good old state of Georgia. We will build American, we will buy American, and we will hire American, and the jobs are going to be pouring in. And I will end the war in Ukraine, which would have never happened if I were president. And I will stop the chaos in the Middle East. October 7th would have never happened if I were president. And I will prevent World War III from happening. Because this would be a war like no other. This would be a war, the level of destructive power. This would be a war like no other, but it'll never happen. But it could happen with them. It will happen. I'm most worried about the next 3 months. That's what I'm worried. I'm actually worried about the next 3 months. We will crush violent crime and give our police the support, protection, resources, and respect that they so dearly deserve. We will strengthen and modernize our military. I rebuilt our entire military, but they gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan. Can you imagine that? They gave billions and billions of dollars away, but it's still only a fraction of what we have. We rebuilt the military. We've got to touch it up anyway. We're going to touch it up. And I rebuilt the nuclear arsenal, and I hated doing it because it's obliteration. We don't want that to happen. And, you know, Russia and myself and China were talking about de-escalation, actually, of nuclear. We had that going, and then this stupid thing happened with the election. And you think Biden thought about that? He can't figure out how the hell he goes up to bed. And besides that, I was just thinking the other day, you know, you have countries, and when somebody calls, like Putin calls, or President Xi, who's a fierce individual, somebody said, what's he like? He's a very smart guy. But what's he like? Well, he's a fierce individual. He really is. He's fierce. When you get into an argument with him, you know you've got an argument going, right? He's a fierce, and he loves China, and we love the USA, right? So, but I was thinking today, let's say you're China, and you want to call the United States because there's a conflict or there's a problem. Who the hell do you call? There's nobody. Do you call her? Do you call... He's not going to be answering your phone. He only works about 2 hours a day. And I understand. I mean, it's okay. But she can't really do it. She hasn't got the aptitude or the IQ or anything else. She can't do it. So who the hell do you call? Oh. Well, I don't know if they have a choice. There's nobody you can go. You ever have that? You're calling a company, like a nice company, and there's all flux and trouble. You don't know who to talk to. Here's on a much larger scale, to put it mildly, the largest scale in the world. You call the United States because we have a problem with something. You have no idea who the hell you're talking to. We will build a missile defense shield, all made in the USA, wrapped around our country to defend ourselves and our country. It's all going to be made in the United States, and a lot of it in your great state. We'll put Herschel Walker in charge of that little sucker, okay? And we're going to do that. It's so important. You know, it's our technology. I know a lot of people say it's our technology, and we're going to use that technology at an even higher level. You know, when you see Israel with 187 rockets blasted, and almost all of them are knocked down, well, we got to have that kind of capability too. And we're the one can do it better than anybody. You know, Ronald Reagan wanted to do it, but we really didn't have the technology. He was great, but we didn't have the technology then. It would have been a terrible thing, because we would have had it, it would have never worked. But now we have technology where it can knock a pin out of the sky. It can knock a little pin this big out of the sky. It's incredible. We will rebuild our cities, including our capital in Washington, D.C., which is a mess, with graffiti on our marble, beautiful Carrara marble columns all over the city, graffiti and filth and crime. We're going to make it beautiful again, and we're going to rebuild our cities. We're going to work with Democrat mayors and governors. We'll probably have to, and we're going to make our cities beautiful and safe again. We'll work with them if we have to. And we will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag. And we will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools. And we will keep men out of women's sports. That's like a no-brainer. Brett Favre endorsed me yesterday. That was beautiful. While we were in Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin, he said, I've never endorsed anybody in my life. It was never appropriate for me to do so. You're the one person I'm going to endorse. And I said, that's an honor. And he shook my hand. It's the largest hand I have ever seen. This hand is the biggest thing I've ever seen. Then you wonder why he threw the ball so hard and so long. He was a great player, but he endorsed me. And that was a great honor. I will defend religious liberty, I will restore free speech, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms, our Second Amendment. After years of building up foreign nations, defending foreign borders, and protecting foreign lands, we are going to just do this. We're going to do this so at a level that we have never done it before, because we're putting America first, and we're going to help others. We're not going to be, gee, we're never leaving our shores. We'll help others, but first we have to build our country back up. We have a sick, sick country. I say, we're a nation in decline. We're not going to be a nation in decline for very long, I can tell you that. But we're going to defend our borders and protect our citizens. We're going to do that. And we will stop illegal immigration once and for all. We're going to stop those criminals from coming in. We're being invaded, and we're going to stop it. And we will not be invaded, and we will not be occupied. We will not be overrun. We will not be conquered. They are conquered. Can you imagine 5 years ago, me, standing up and saying, we will not be invaded, we will not be conquered, because we are being invaded. And can you imagine that we even think of that? To be using those expressions? Can you imagine that I'd be up here saying, and I will stop men from playing in women's sports? What the hell? It's interesting. I read so much, and it's such a big deal. So, as I said, I've been doing this for 9 years. I've never had one person, they come up, sir, I think you should cut taxes. I think you should do this. I think you should have Elon build a rocket to Mars. Everything. They never said to me, sir, it's very important that men be able to play in women's sports. I've never had anybody come up, and yet it's like a big deal. That's all they talk about. I never had anybody come up and say, sir, it's so important, let men play in women's sports. I don't get it. Same with transgender. I mean, they want to do things that they shouldn't be doing. It's terrible. And oftentimes when it's done, that person that it was done to, 10 years later said, who did this to me? Who did this to me? How sad is that? Little children, they take them without parental consent. Can you believe it? It's not even possible to believe. Oh, we're going to change it all around, and the people because you know what? We're the party of common sense. We're the party of common sense. We will be a free and proud nation once again. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope, and always filled with that beautiful American dream. Your children, you want your children, yourself, but you want your children to have the American dream, and they're going to have it. They're going to have it. They're going to have it very, very soon. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris and stop her radical left agenda with a landslide that is too big to rig. So on Tuesday, see, it's very simple. For 2 weeks, I've been saying, call this number, that number, early voting, late voting. We should have one-day voting with paper ballots, voter ID, and proof of citizenship. Yes, I'm a United States citizen. And you know what? The voting would be concluded at 9 o'clock. The winner would be announced, and the loser would be announced at 9:30. You would save hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you know that paper ballots, actually the paper is highly sophisticated. It's called watermark. It's like got fingerprints on it. Very sophisticated. But you know that it costs 8% of the machines. And I'm upset because the machines, they say, when are we going to have they don't know. They don't know. Is it going to be Tuesday? It should be Tuesday night. We should demand it has to be accurate. Number one, has to be Tuesday night. But eventually, and we're going to work on that. That's a part of our platform. We're going to go to France. Did it? They had 39 million people vote. They voted. They had a winner. They had a loser. They went to mail-in ballots, and it didn't work. It was tremendous, rampant cheating. As you know, there would be. Jimmy Carter said there would be when he was asked to chair a commission. But we're going to bring so many things back to our country, and they're common sense things like that. You need to get out and vote. We're going to do things that are going to make you so proud. And we just don't want to take a chance. We're leading by a lot. We're leading by numbers that nobody's ever seen before. Some people said, I really don't believe these polls. This is going to be a landslide because, we did a great job for 4 years. Right to try, another thing we did. Right to try if somebody's terminally ill. They get a chance to try instead of going to Europe or Asia. They're terminally ill and they have to leave our country. We have the greatest doctors in the world, greatest scientists, greatest labs. And I got it done. It was 42 years in the making. They couldn't get it done. I said to the person wanting it, you have to sign a no liability. You're not going to sue the country. You're not going to sue the doctor, the lab. You're not going to sue anybody. And we've saved thousands and thousands of lives with right to try. It's been amazing. And the people that fought it hardest, which were the doctors and the various insurance companies, they love it because when you save people that are terminally ill, that have no chance of living, and now they're saved, and not only are they saved, they're disease-free. What a great thing that is. And thousands of people have been saved. For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister, corrupt forces on earth. With your vote in this election, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. Belongs to you. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And 2 days from now, it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. 2 days, 2 days. What a beautiful sight. What a beautiful sound, 2 days. Oh, please, please, please help this country, please. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. You watch. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be nasty a little bit at times, and maybe at the beginning in particular, but it's going to be something that we're going to go to heights that this country never has reached, and nobody ever even thought it could. You're going to see things that you're not going to believe. With your help, from now until Election Day, we will restore America's promise, and we will take back the nation that we love. We love this nation. That's why I'm doing this. I didn't have to be here tonight. I could have been on a beautiful beach somewhere. The sun pouring down on me, the waves, saltwater waves hitting me in the face. I love those properties, but you know what? I love this much more. It's not even a contest. Many people have said, if you had it, because they've treated me terribly, you know. Look, they treated Andrew Jackson, President Andrew, a great general and a good president. They treated him the worst up until me. They treated Abraham Lincoln is considered the second worst. They treated him but he was in a civil war, in all fairness. I guess that makes sense, right? He had a civil war. But now I think there's no question about the fact that I got treated the worst. Think of it. And it did. I mentioned before. I got treated worse than Alphonse Capone, one of the greatest killers in the world. Scarface. And my father's looking down. Probably he's looking down, but my mother is definitely looking down. My father, you know, a little questionable. But no, he was a tough guy, but he was a great guy and a good guy. But we're one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God, under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever surrender. We're not surrendering. We're there. We're there. You got to get out and vote. We're there. We're actually on the 1 yard line. Let's go get out and vote. Everybody vote, 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 vote. Together we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. We're going to win. November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen. Let's get the likes up. To get the likes up, just double tap your screen, just like that. Subscribe to the channel. You've heard from the 45th. Who most people believe would be the 47th? That's what I believe as well. Well, we're not going to know until Tuesday. So let's just wait and patient, okay? All right, let's see what CNN is talking about when it comes to the electoral victory for Trump or for Harris, okay? Let's get it.
CNN political director David Chalian is over at the Magic Wall for us to break down which states Trump and Harris need to win the White House.
Wolf, here it is. The path to 270, the red states are in Trump's column, the blue states are in Harris's column for the purpose of this exercise. And we've got 7 remaining yellow toss-up battleground states. And as you know, those battleground states are razor thin. Look at these are a poll of polls in the battleground states. No clear leader in any of them, in any of these battleground states. So this is razor thin. So what is the path to victory for each candidate? Well, the Harris campaign will say that their best, most direct path to 270 electoral votes is through the blue wall. If she were to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, she'd be at 270 electoral votes and the next president. But what if Donald Trump repeats his 2016 victory in Pennsylvania? Then Harris drops down to 251 and she has to go hunting in the Sun Belt to find some more votes. Certainly, if she were able to flip North Carolina from red to blue this time, that would get her knocking on the door to 270. And then maybe Nevada behaves like it has for Democrats in recent cycles, and that would put Harris over the top in that scenario. What about Donald Trump's path? Well, let's reset the map. 7 yellow battleground states. And Donald Trump's most direct path is to hang on to North Carolina. That is the state he won by the narrowest margin 4 years ago. In fact, it's the only state he won of the 7 battleground states. And let's say he flips Georgia back. You'll recall he famously lost it by just fewer than 12,000 votes. So let's say that ends up back in his column. And let's say he does get that Pennsylvania victory repeated from 2016. That's it. He'll be at 270 electoral votes. He doesn't need any of the rest of the battleground states. But what if Harris does pull it out in Pennsylvania? Then where does Donald Trump go for the next 19 electoral votes? Well, even if he were to win Nevada and Arizona out west, that still would not get him to 270. He would need at least one of the other remaining so-called blue wall states, such as Michigan, and that would do the trick and get him over the top at 283.
Let's go to John King. He's at the Magic Wall. And John, it's those individual groups, whether you're talking about Arab Americans in Michigan or Jewish voters or Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania. Everyone's talking about such specific groups because we keep hearing about how this is one of the tightest races in history. We'll see if that's really the case. How do you see it 2 days out?
The data tell us it is the closest race in the 10. This is my 10th presidential election, and there's never been one this close according to the numbers, but they do sometimes break late. So you should prepare yourself for any possibility of outcomes, a split back and forth between the states, or you could prepare yourself that one candidate does have late momentum and runs up most of the battleground states. Either one of those scenarios, a sort of a split decision, a boxing match, or somebody sweeping most of them is possible. So let's go through some of the numbers, and why do I say that? Let's start in the blue wall states, right? Look at these. Forgive me for turning my back. Just want to stretch this out a little bit so people can see it more clearly at home. This is the CNN poll of polls. You're right. There was some new New York Times data out today. There are some hints of maybe a little bit of Harris momentum in there. The Sunday before the election, I always lapse back into caution mode, right? Let's be careful. Let's let people vote. Let's be respectful of the process. And let's look at the average of the polls. That's the safest way to do it. 49-46. In Wisconsin. So you could say Harris is a lead. That's so close. It's, that's a statistical tie. But 48-46 in Michigan, 48-48, an actual tie in, of course, battleground Pennsylvania. So let me just shrink this down and take it off to the side a little bit and put it down here. And then we'll do this one. So that's the blue wall states. What about the Sun Belt states, right? So forgive me again. I just want to stretch it out. North Carolina, Trump with a 1-point edge, that's the statistical tie, no clear leader. Georgia, same thing, Trump 49, Harris 47, so the Trump campaign say we're ahead a little bit. I would say then that means who turns out is going to affect that. In Arizona, again, Trump consistently has had a tiny lead in Arizona, small lead in Arizona, 49-47. Again, certainly advantaged Trump by the numbers, but within reach for the vice president. It's that close.
So, when you look at all this, and you talk about how it could, late break either way, or something very close is very close in every state, but sort of all ends up being very close going towards one candidate. I mean, how does all this play out, John, when you look at the path to 270?
So let's take this literally, as in, let's assume it played out exactly like our averages say on the Sunday before, right? So you have Harris gets Wisconsin, Harris gets Michigan, Pennsylvania's an actual tie. Right, Donald Trump would get North Carolina scenario. There we go, make it red. Donald Trump will get Georgia in that scenario, make it red. Donald Trump gets Arizona in that scenario, make it red. Where does that leave you? Look at this. We don't have any recent polling. We don't have enough to have a poll of polls in Nevada. So we're leaving that one as a toss-up. But under that scenario, just giving them as we have, 262 for Trump, 251 for Harris. Doesn't matter really who would win Nevada in that case. It would get Harris to 257. It would get Trump to 268. So let's, for the sake of this argument, leave it yellow as a toss-up because the point is it all comes down to battleground Pennsylvania in this scenario. If everything plays out exactly the way it averages out right now, whoever wins Pennsylvania wins 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and gets to be president of the United States. So that is why the campaigns have spent more in Pennsylvania, Aaron, than any other state, and by a huge margin. It's not really even close because they understand it's the biggest prize, 19 electoral votes, and whoever wins Pennsylvania is likely to win the White House. I will say this, Harris does have an advantage here. She does have an advantage here. That's the third blue wall state. Those three states have voted together since 1992. So if that pattern were to continue, that would be for Harris. But As you know, rules are sometimes made to be broken. And those are the 3 states that made Donald Trump president. That was the big surprise in 2016, remember, when he crashed the blue wall and won all 3 of them. That is equally conceivable. The numbers are that close.
I mean, it is incredible how really any option, and then you would be able to look back historically and find a poll that would have supported the outcome that actually happens. So now can we talk about, I know, there's been a lot of discussion out there about herding and whether a lot of the polls are sort of showing it razor thin. Some people are worried about being wrong. And then all of a sudden, in walks the Des Moines Register poll. Harris ahead in Iowa, the Selzer poll. And Selzer, what stands out to you in that poll? I mean, certainly when I first saw it on Twitter and I didn't see who did it, I said, oh, is this one of those ones that, people are just sort of putting out there and making up? And then I said, no, this is a gold standard poll. Wow, this isn't expected. What do you see in there?
So Ann is one of the best in the business, right?
Yep.
Does that mean Kamala Harris is going to win Iowa? No, it doesn't mean that, and Ann would say that in a heartbeat. There's a margin of error. Sometimes you're polling at a snapshot of time. So what was going on in the news when you were polling? Ann would be the last one to say it means Harris is going to win, but she'd be the first one to say her data, which is good data, says this is suddenly a very competitive race in battleground Iowa, which was not competitive. That's what, 8 points back in 2020. I think you have a graphic you could show me. The biggest thing to me was the shift in independent women, right? You have no clear leader in the state. You also have independent women swinging to Harris. So has Donald Trump hurt himself? There it is right there. 57% of independent women say they're for Harris to 29% for Donald Trump. So that's a big swing among women. Remember, this is the first presidential election post the Dobbs decision. This is the first presidential election.
Where are these
after
polls
the last
coming
Iowa
from,
poll,
though?
which you mentioned was pretty
Are they
close.
polling more
Trump was
Democrats
ahead in the last
than
Iowa poll, but that was narrow too.
Republicans?
Since just before
That may
that
be the
poll,
case.
the Iowa 6-week
I don't
abortion
know.
ban kicked in. So it has now been the law of the land,
This is
if you will,
just
in the
my
state
opinion.
for months. Right? Is that having an impact in this race? Or something Trump has said in the last few days? I can tell you the last time, I've been to Iowa 3 times this year. First, mostly around the caucuses. Then I went back and visited our Trump voters right before the Democratic convention to see what they thought of Harris. Our focus then was on Trump voters. But while we were in the state, we ran into a lot of Democrats who said, do not forget us. We are energized by the vice president's pick, and this is going to be a lot closer than you think. Maybe they were right.
Maybe. I mean, it's anybody's guess. And of course, if she ends up being right, then that is sure a capstone.
It just puts it just tells you how close this environment is, that states that you didn't think were going to be in play just might be. That's why Tuesday's going to be interesting.
Double tap your screen. Double tap your screen right now. Let's get the likes up. Subscribe to the channel. I don't know where CNN is getting the polls from, but I guess it's, they do what they do. And you can see their polls right there. But they say it's not, precise. You have to wait for election day and see the results and see what is going on. All right. Let's see what. Okay. Did you know that the Vice President Kamala Harris was on SNL? She had an appearance on SNL. And it was a topic for people to talk about. Okay, let's listen to what Fox is talking about concerning her appearance on SNL. Let's get it.
Rerouted to New York so Harris could make the surprise appearance alongside her doppelganger, Maya Rudolph.
It's nice to see you, Kamala, and I'm just here to remind
appearance while snubbing Donald Trump. The vice president was literally en route to Michigan when Air Force Two suddenly got rerouted to New York so Harris could make the surprise appearance alongside her doppelganger, Maya Rudolph.
It's nice to see you, Kamala, and I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
I see what you did there, like to a garbage truck, right?
I don't really laugh like that, do I?
A little bit.
The Trump campaign says her candidate wasn't given an SNL invite, and that could be a problem. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr calls it a, quote, clear and blatant effort to evade the FCC's equal time rule, and explained more to Fox Digital.
The FCC's equal time rule has been on the books for dozens and dozens of years. NBC knows this because this exact issue has come up time and time again with respect to this exact program. And it's important that the FCC come together and we take action. Otherwise, our rules are absolutely meaningless.
And don't take Brendan Carr's word for it. Here's Lorne Michaels just a month ago. He said this: you can't bring the actual people who are running on because of election laws and equal time provisions. You can't have the main candidates without having all the candidates. And there are lots of minor candidates that are only on the ballot in like 3 states, and that becomes really complicated. So something happened here. If you were in Michigan hoping to see her, you got cheated of that, Harold, and you got 30 seconds of her on SNL instead.
I'll let the lawyers sort out all of those details about the equal time. I thought it was good. I thought it was funny, and they still picked at her a little bit. I mean, Maya Rudolph, when she said, "Do I sound like this?" She said, "Yeah, I sound like this." But I think we all know any coverage like this is good 2 or 3 days before an election, and whether it moved voters remains to be seen. But I think it does show that she has a sense of humor. And is willing to even come on with people who make fun of her. I think her and Maya Rudolph are friends, but Maya Rudolph has not held back over the. But Maya Rudolph has not held back. I've watched the show, and she has gone after her and made fun of her for a lot of things that we've talked about on this show.
It's funnier when she does. That's indeed true. But by doing this on the Saturday before the election, Judge, that means that if they were going to obey the election laws, equal time rules, that there's no chance for President Trump to even get that equal fairness.
They knew ahead of time that this was something, because even the chair of the FCC just commented that this show in particular has had issues as it relates to presidential candidates, okay? The fact that they took Kamala and did not publicize it when it would have been in their interest to publicize it in advance, as it is, they got 4.75 million viewers. If they had said in advance, they probably would have gotten more, but there's a reason that they didn't promote it. And the reason is they knew that there would be a complaint to the FCC. And as the chair just says, there has to be consequences. Otherwise, there's no point. They can't give Donald Trump equal time because there's not another Saturday before the election. And I think what's so interesting is this is perfect for Kamala. She didn't tell anyone on Air Force Two that they were going to reroute, instead of going to Michigan, come back to New York. Nobody had the Wi-Fi so that they could let everyone in New York and the press know we're going back to New York City. I mean, and it's scripted. It's the only thing Kamala can do well. If she reads or if it's scripted, she'll do. Joe Rogan, though, she couldn't do Joe Rogan, but she can take Air Force Two and crisscross the country to do Saturday Night Live. And I think that what it portends, if she does win this election, is what presidents are going to be able to get away with. Not serious interviews, but whatever they want.
Trump was great on SNL before, Greg, but they won't give him another chance.
I thought that was so brave of her going on there. I mean, the way they came after her, she knew it wasn't going to be pretty, but she still went on there. What's so perfect about this is that skit was the same exact skit as Donald Trump and Fallon. So she can't even do an original skit. She has to plagiarize even the skits for SNL. They can't figure out what to do with her. So they go, let's just do the old one with her in it. Because honestly, we have nothing for her. And I felt bad for SNL because they are comedy welfare for the Democratic candidate. This is the check at the end of the month. It's not like she earned it. She's entitled to it. You know, you got to throw her a bone. If you didn't, it's, DEI for the Democrats. And they treat, it's kind of sad. They treat her like their special relative, a little slow, not good on her feet, but she's family, but you know what? The real story was Raskin on Bill Maher saying he wouldn't certify the election. I mean, this is a guy who ran Jan 6, said that, like, if it's, I'm not going to, and it's like, and that was the question that they were posing to every Republican. Are you going to certify the election? Are you going to accept the election? No, you're going to want to make sure it's fair. And everybody was pulling their hair out. Raskin says the same thing, and no one says
Yeah, and they just go, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Comedy welfare is my new favorite term. I love it. I love it.
Jesse knows what that
Jesse,
is.
can you beat that?
If you're comedy welfare for Democrats, what is exclamation point for Republicans?
You know what? It's free market, ha-ha.
Okay. Sure. I'm tired. I just ran the marathon, Dana, and I came right to work. So I don't know if I can make it through the whole show. But you're right. She should have done Rogan. She did this instead. And that tells you everything about the Harris campaign. Yep. And the symbolism of them breaking the law to hurt Trump tells you what they've done and what they're going to do if he wins. And they should have invited Donald Trump. It would have been funnier. Yeah. It would have gotten better ratings. But they're willing to sacrifice their core mission, which is laughter and profits, to hurt Trump. Now, I don't really think it matters because it's too late. It's not like this is going to change anyone's mind, but it shows you that Trump has to run through this rigged system to win, whether it's 60 Minutes, whether it's these biased debate moderators, whether it's this or anything like that. When he wins, it's going to make it even more sweet. And Glenn Greenwald was on my show the other day, and he said a lot of his friends in the mainstream media say.
Thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Look, Harris is doing what she's supposed to do, which is go where she knows she would get the most traction. You know, Trump knew going on, Joe Rogan's show is going to give him more traction for sure. And Kamala knows going on Joe Rogan for her would be, a disaster because think about it. For you, the vice president talking for 2-3 hours. Can you imagine the vice president talking to Joe for 2-3 hours? Yeah, I don't think there would be 2 days counting the vote. It's just what it is, okay? It's gonna. I mean, everybody knows, okay? So it's good that she didn't go. I mean, if I am on her team, I would say, Madam Vice President, do not go over there, okay? Let's go on ahead to SNL and make people laugh, okay? Because you have to know where what your market is. You have to know what your market is. It's just the game.
That they think the mainstream media is pro-Trump. That they think the network brass, these are like producers, writers, and they think they're actually biased in favor of Trump. So these are the type of people we're dealing with. So when Trump says, well, we're going to have to yank some licenses, it's because these people are.
It's just straightforward, man. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Let's go check what the path to 270 is on Fox. This is kind of like a 17 minutes clip. Let's get it.
All right, North Carolina. So we have 3 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we still have work to do.
This is a very important state, and we have to get this solved. We have to get you out, and we can't take a chance of losing the great state of North Carolina. We're not going to lose the great state of North Carolina.
So here we go now, 2 days and counting. Remember we were starting this thing like 60 days ago? Home stretch right there. State of the race. Come on over here, Jimmy. This is what our forecasts have been looking like, and this really goes back more than a month. All right. We think everything in gold and or yellow is a toss-up, right? But about a week ago, we had Arizona lean Republican, so we gave it that little rosé red color there. I don't know what's going on in Iowa, Dana, right? I mean, we've got it likely Republican. You know, Trump won at 9 points in 2016, won at 8 points in 2020. So we'll see how that goes. Here's another thing to look at, all right? You know, this is New York Times from overnight, okay? These are all the swing states. Everything's super close as best as we can tell. Look, someone's going to be right, someone is going to be wrong. That's just what it comes down to. They've got Trump ahead in Arizona. They've got her up a point in Georgia. They got a dead tie in Michigan. They got Carolina Harris leading there by 2. They got Harris up 3 in Nevada, but if you look at some of the early voting in Nevada, Republicans have done a very good job of turning out their voters. In fact, they've got a lead right there by about almost 5 points right now in the early voting in Nevada. Pennsylvania, flat out tie right there. I'll come back to that in a moment. And they've got Wisconsin up too. So what do we know? James Blair might know a few things. Political director, RNC, Trump campaign. James, good morning to you. Just give us your state of the race right now. What does your campaign see?
We're very optimistic right now. We feel good about where things are. Right now, obviously, what we're watching is people are voting. And what we've seen is historic early voting by Republicans outperforming 2020 or even 2022. So from our perch, things look pretty good right now. I'm sure we'll go through state by state, but some highlights. North Carolina, we won the early vote. That's never happened before. In Nevada, the mail dumps are coming in, and they're not as blue as the Democrats would like them to be. And there's not as many of them. So lots of good signs in our direction right now.
Okay, I want to read this from Nate Cohn. This is on the New York Times polling that I showed our viewers here. Across these final polls, white Democrats were 16% likelier to respond than white Republicans. That's a larger disparity than our earlier polls this year, and it's not much better than our final polls in 2020, even with the pandemic over. It raises the possibility that the polls could underestimate Mr. Trump yet again. We do a lot to account for this, but in the end, there are no guarantees. How do you read that?
I think it's covering. I think that they know where things stand. Look, in all of those polls, in all the battleground states, I heard Carl before this talking about the recalled vote, they've set the electorate to the left of 2020, which doesn't comport with what we know, which is that all of these electorates have moved to the right, just on a registration eligible electorate basis itself. And obviously, we see that starting to manifest in the early voting patterns. So I think that they're sort of putting some cover out there because they're going to underrepresent President Trump's support. What they essentially are saying there is, we got too many Democrats in the survey. We don't have enough Republicans. We know that, but we're going to publish these numbers on the eve of the election anyway.
So the pollsters have told us that they've accounted for this because of the miss in 16, the miss in 2020. We'll see whether or not that happens. Wall Street Journal has been a big target for your campaign. Young men could boost Trump to victory if they show up. That's the headline. What are you seeing out there in the battlegrounds?
Well, let's just talk about the partisan registration states where they register by party, because then you don't have to take my word for it. You can go look for yourself. Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Republicans have turned out more 0 of 4 voters and 1 of 4 voters, so those less frequent or newly registered voters, than the Democrats have in every single one of those states. So I'd say that there's evidence that it's working on our part. We are turning out those lower propensity voters, be they young men or otherwise. So everything you can measure right now suggests that it's going well for us.
My sense is on Tuesday, we're going to be spending a lot of time in Pennsylvania. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. But this 8 years ago, this is Trump winning that state by 44,000 votes over Hillary Clinton. 4 years ago, this is Biden winning the state by 81,000 votes in 2020. We'll see, but it's just my sense that the Keystone State will be very critical and key come Tuesday. How much can your campaign do in the closing 48 hours?
A lot. We can keep getting out the vote. And let's talk about Pennsylvania. Right now, there's nearly 700,000 registered Democrats in the state of Pennsylvania who had cast a vote by this point in 2020 or 2022, and they haven't cast a vote yet, and they don't have mail ballots. That's a huge hurdle for them to climb. Secondarily, again, we've talked about the voter registration before, Bill, but just to put a fine point on it, there was 685,000 more registered Democrats in the state of Pennsylvania 4 years ago than Republicans. Today, that number has been cut to about 280,000. So a huge swing in our direction.
James Blair, thank you for your time. I know you're working day and night. Thanks for coming on today, and we'll see who's right. Thanks. Back special coverage Sunday morning. As Dana said, don't change that dial on your set. Are there still dials, Dana? No, it's all like remotes,
in
right?
8% of households.
And how many?
8.
Oh, come on, did you know that really?
No, I'm making it
It's
up.
like ChatGPT, right? This is Georgia from 4 years ago. This is Joe Biden winning by 0.2 percentage points for a grand total of fewer than 12,000 votes in Georgia. You know what happened down there, right? Now with 16 electoral votes, Atlanta is Fulton County. Fulton County is number 1 of 159 in population. You get a lot of Democratic votes out of Fulton County. Welcome back on a Sunday morning. Today is the last day of in-person voting in the pivotal swing state of Michigan. Here's where Michigan was 8 years ago. Whew. 11,612 votes. This is where Michigan was 4 years ago. Biden flipped it 154,000 votes to take the state. This is Detroit. This is Wayne County. It's very blue. You're going to get a strong African-American vote there. We'll see how strong it is in the end. You're going to get a lot of Democratic votes as well. But Wayne County and the city of Detroit can help determine a lot statewide. You see what Biden did there with 332,000 votes in one county alone. Grady Trimble is live in Wayne County. He's in Dearborn, Michigan, getting a lay of the land. And Grady, what are you learning?
Well, Bill, the Trump campaign has been trying to exploit Vice President Harris's weakness with the Arab American community, many of them unhappy with the Biden-Harris administration's handling of the wars in Gaza and Lebanon. The Trump team has been doing outreach in Dearborn, which is home to the largest Arab American population in the country, even before former President Trump stopped here on Friday. And at least anecdotally, that outreach may be paying off. I spoke with 2 Lebanese Americans voting early early, both voting in their first presidential election and both casting their ballots for Trump.
President Trump promised us, I know he's gonna keep a promise. We should have a change and we should bring peace to the Middle East.
Why do you think he's going to handle the Middle East better than the current administration?
Because he don't like war. He don't like to spend money out U.S., like billion for Ukraine, billion for Israel, billion here, billion there. We need the money in America.
At an event with the United Auto Workers Union in Detroit, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, told auto workers to vote Democrat, but refused to explicitly endorse Harris. And you mentioned that it's the last day of in-person early voting here in Michigan. Looking at the numbers, more than 40% of registered voters have already cast their ballots here. As you can see behind me, Bill, blue skies here in the Detroit suburbs today. Looking ahead to Election Day, though, the weather's not looking so good. That could hamper turnout in a race in a state where everything could come down to turnout.
Yeah, we'll watch that story. I know the rain's coming your way, but I think those Michiganders are pretty tough. I think they'll fight their way through it. Grady, thank you. Dana. This is Georgia now, okay? Georgia has been the focus for 4 years. It's gotten a lot of attention. They did a rewrite of their election laws. The early vote in Georgia, 4 million, okay? That equates to about 55% of all registered voters in the Peach State. That's really, really impressive. And speaking of which, on election night, when you're watching us, between that 7 and 8 o'clock hour, Georgia closes at 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, we're going to have a lot of different colors on the map to let you know which way Georgia is going for that moment in time for the night come Tuesday night. Let's look at this now, okay? In person, they love to do it, 3.7 million. You got a lot of others by mail. 242,000, right? But the margin in Georgia was so slim in 2020, either one can make a big deal, all right, and a big difference. I want to bring in a judge in Georgia rejecting the RNC's lawsuit. The RNC was arguing against large counties from accepting hand-returned mail-in ballots on the weekend. They were saying that's against the rules. Our legal editor is Carrie Urbon, and she's with me now to take us through it. So they made the case. It appears they were denied. What's at stake there, Carrie?
You know, we're going to just continue to see so many of these kinds of challenges in not just Georgia, but all of the swing states. And here, the RNC was arguing that Fulton County and other counties were allowing people to drop off their mail-in ballots past the early voting deadline and keeping their offices open on Saturday, yesterday, and Sunday today to do so. Now, the state came back and said, well, wait a second, we've always allowed people to drop off their mail-in ballots in person. And also, our law allows counties, if they desire, to keep election offices open on the weekends if they choose to do so. And so the RNC was disappointed about this. They're appealing that. But separately, they were allowed to introduce poll observers into those counties. So my understanding is they were there yesterday and today in these counties watching to make sure that the process is going smoothly and okay.
Okay, here's the RNC chairman, Michael Watley. He didn't like this move at all. Remember the counties we're talking about here, okay? You know, Fulton, Cobb, DeKalb, Gwinnett. That's like 4 of the top 5 populated in the entire state of Georgia. Those counties decided at the last minute to accept ballots over the weekend, which disregards the law. They've also failed to let our poll observers in to watch the process. He concludes, however, Carrie, Secretary of State issued guidance to allow Republican poll watchers in, but local officials refuse, in all caps. You're saying that last part has changed since then.
It did change. It changed a couple of hours later. They sent out a clarifying note and said those poll observers could in fact come in, which the RNC then touted as a victory, but they are appealing the underlying decision. Okay,
Jonathan Turley's got a pretty good headline. He says Halloween's over, but the election litigation is getting really scary. All right, then he writes, rocket science is Elon Musk catching a massive booster rocket on what looked like a giant barbecue fork. Getting the staff and computers in place in a historic election should not be a great challenge. Is he wrong?
But it is one, and I would say there are a couple of reasons as to why that is. With the widespread introduction of mail-in voting during COVID, it doesn't mean the system, it broke the system or the system is broken. It just makes things a lot more difficult for everyone. I would say that combined with the fact that we have moved toward election season versus election day in this country just makes all of these things ripe for challenges. And if I were to categorize the kinds of lawsuits the DNC and the RNC are bringing, I would say the DNC lawsuits have been focused on people having access to mail-in ballots. And a number of lawsuits they filed have said people haven't. They need to get those. And the RNC lawsuits have been characterized by challenging the validity of mail-in ballots and state laws about signing and dating and envelopes. And so you can see how these things can converge and clash, and hence the litigation that we've been seeing for the months leading up to now, and probably the litigation that we'll be seeing after as well, if the race is close.
I think that last time very interesting is like, what are Republicans looking for? What are they complaining about? What are Democrats looking for? What are they complaining about? We'll keep that in mind come Tuesday, maybe beyond. Thank you, Carrie. Nice to see you. Thanks for getting up.
Thank you.
Carrie Arbon, thanks.
Bill Hammer, what do you have down there in that studio?
Hey, morning again. I'm going to show you some of our features that our viewers will be introduced to now, and then you'll see a lot more of it come Tuesday night. But I just want to recap a little bit, right? The race to 270, that's what this is all about. Even today as we are here, Trump's best chance to get to 270, like the straight line path, is where he's campaigning today. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. If he sweeps those three states, he'll be the president yet again. Let me go ahead and take these off the map here and show you for Kamala Harris, it hasn't changed. It's that blue wall strategy, all right? Upper Midwest, Wisconsin, and then Michigan, Pennsylvania. And if you get that one electoral vote in Nebraska too, that would give her enough to win the White House at 270 votes. Okay, I'll take this off and I'll take you back to a time 4 years ago. Okay, this is 2020. This is the blue wall right here, right? Biden swept it. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Okay, Wisconsin was the closest of the three, in fact. Won it by 0.6 percentage points, all right? Now I want to look at the vote difference, Pennsylvania. And what you see here is the historical view of Pennsylvania going back to the year 2000. Democratic state. It's been blue every time except for one. And I would point out, Obama's victory in 2008, that's not even a battleground. Won the state by 10 points. Romney was able to go ahead and cut that by about half. But when Trump flipped the state in 2016, he was able to win the White House by 44,000 votes. Let's look at the vote difference now for Michigan. What you see is a similar picture, even more Democratic, right? Look where Obama was in 2008. I got to reach that far to get there. 16 points, right? 16 and a half. And this was the difference maker for Trump in 2016, winning by 10,700 votes. I mentioned Wisconsin. Let's look at the vote difference for Wisconsin. Very interesting history. I don't know what you see at home. What I see are four really close national elections with two outliers, 2008 and 2012. But this was the difference maker yet again in 2016. That was Trump by 22,000 votes. So what I've just shown you is the blue wall in 2016 went red the entire time and got away from its blue pattern. Let's go ahead and clear this a second here. Much more to show on that with regard to Wisconsin, but that was the closest battle in 2020. I said 0.6, raw vote is 20,000. I don't know if it's going to be that close this year, but we'll find out. We'll be able to tell based on history a little bit, Dana, about sort of, what these previous elections have told us and the patterns and how America constantly realigns itself, Dana.
That's a great new feature, and it's helpful to have it in terms of with that graphic. The team that you work with, they've been extraordinary putting this together.
They sure have. The best, all right? I mean, they're really, really working hard. And a lot of this stuff, Dana, when we sat down 2 years ago and said, how do you take all this information at one time, all this data, all these voters from all these counties and all these states, and how are we better able to tell a story about America? And this.
Whoa, you've heard from Fox when it comes to the path, the journey to 270. What do you guys think? Do you think Trump is going to come out on top, or do you think the Vice President Kamala Harris will come out on top? This is why Trump is working so hard, doing 2 to 4 events every single day. And that's why I said, you got to go out in droves and vote, vote, vote. This is the case because you cannot win by a little margin. No, you're going to have to win like this. Like this. Because if you win by this, bro, you ain't finna be in the White House. He finna be in there. So you better make sure you win by this. So it's be too big to. I know you finished it in there. All right, let's go listen to what the Republicans are saying based on their own predictions, okay?
We're just 2 days from Election Day, and so far, women appear to be outpacing men significantly in early voting. The Harris campaign taking that as a good sign. There's a gender gap. Joining us now to discuss the impact is House GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
Let's talk about the gender gap, because clearly it's there. There are also people who haven't made up their minds yet. So Mark Thiessen, writing about this over at the Washington Post, says this about using Nikki Haley. The former UN ambassador is the very model of a reluctant Trump voter who has put aside her reservations and decided to pull the lever for the former president. So why is Trump not deploying her on the campaign trail? Mark goes on to say he thinks it's political malpractice and that these two should just bury the hatchet, get her out there. Why hasn't she been used?
So a couple of points here, Shannon. I think it's important for viewers to know that President Trump is doing better among women than Kamala Harris is doing among men. There is a significant gender gap, but President Trump is overperforming. Kamala Harris is significantly underperforming. President Trump's campaign has strong, intelligent women deployed across the country. I've been on the campaign trail. Laura Trump is on the campaign trail. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. All of the women are working together to turn out the vote. And we are going to earn this support because if you look at President Trump's record when it comes to women, it was the highest number of women ever in the workforce, the largest wage and salary increase for working women ever. Childcare was affordable. And we had safety and security, whether it was a secure border or a president that supported our law enforcement. Look at what's happening today across this country impacting women. Inflation. I'm still the grocery shopper in my family. Women go and they see the impact of Kamala's failed economic policies with increased prices at the grocery store, increased utility costs, energy costs. And then, of course, you have the wide open border, which safety and security is a top issue for women. So President Trump is going to continue to talk about his record as well as many strong and intelligent women surrogates who are out there. And what I think is very telling is Kamala Harris's campaign. Kamala Harris did not condemn Mark Cuban's just disgraceful comments saying that President Trump does not surround himself with strong, intelligent women, whether you compare it to the First Lady, his daughter Ivanka Trump, or so many senior level women that are working in support of his campaign.
I want to ask you about something else that they've been a lot of inroads with women in the conversation from the vice president has been that he doesn't respect women's autonomy and their agency. Here's a little bit more of what she said.
And Donald Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide. He would restrict access to birth control, put IVF treatments at risk, and force states, get this, to monitor women's pregnancies.
Now, we've all seen the ads. They run endlessly, and this is the message I hear over and over again, and it seems to be resonating with a lot of women. How worried are you about the states that do have issues like abortion on the ballot and how that has been working for the left?
President Trump has been very clear. He believes that this issue should be decided at the states. He has been specific over his time in office. He supports 3 exceptions: life, rape, and incest in life of the mother. That is very important for voters to know. And when it comes to IVF, that is a false smear. President Trump wants to expand access to IVF, make birth control available. And the reason why Democrats are only talking about this issue is these are scare tactics because they are losing on every other issue, whether it's the economy, the border, safety and security around the world. We're going to run and win. And I think that women, as they look at the key top issues, they are increasingly looking that their lives were much better under President Trump versus the crises that we've seen under Kamala Harris today.
So I want to talk about a couple of things that Senator Kelly brought up. One of them is the CHIPS Act. And he says the president's going to get rid of it. It's going to cost jobs in his state and a lot of other places. I heard the speaker's explanation in trying to say he doesn't believe in getting rid of the CHIPS Act, but there could be modifications or things he thinks would actually strengthen the program. But Senator Kelly said President Trump says it's gone.
No, the speaker was very clear. He said we need to strengthen the CHIPS Act to make sure that the jobs actually come in America. One of the critiques of the CHIPS Act is that they're too much for other countries where jobs are created there and not here right at home. It is important in upstate New York. It is important in the state of Arizona and other states across the country. President Trump's economic policy is America first, not these giveaways to other countries. The other part of the CHIPS Act that is problematic that we want to get rid of, a small part, is the Green New Deal subsidies. We want to promote a manufacturing in the United States, and that's what President Trump believes. That's what Republicans believe, and that's what the speaker was saying. Get rid of these far left, progressive, radical Green New Deal subsidies and actually focus on manufacturing chips in America. That's what we're focused on.
Okay, the Affordable Care Act, because that's the speaker had to do some explaining on this too as well. There were those who said he's talking about getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as some people call it. The top Democrat in the House, Congressman Hakeem Jeffrey, says they are determined to end the Affordable Care Act as we know it. Now, maybe that qualifier language is true. There has been talk about modifications to the act, or to the law as it currently stands. 60% of Americans have a positive view of Obamacare. So what about this concern? Should they have concern that if you run the table and House Republicans have the means to, that they would somehow modify or get rid of Obamacare, which leaves them without options?
We want to improve health care. We want to lower costs. We want to make sure that people have access, whether you're in rural, suburban, or urban communities. That's what President Trump is focused on. If you talk to anyone, Shannon, they continue to see their price of health care go up and up under Kamala Harris's failed administration with Joe Biden. So we want to lower those costs, make health care accessible for all, and improve it in America. That's why you're seeing this slogan, Make America Healthy Again. That is resonating with the American people who feel that we can do so much better. President Trump is leading that movement with a big tent Republican Party that is focused on improving health care outcomes and access for every American.
So obviously the House, a slight GOP majority, which has been tough, I think, to manage on some issues. It's one of the tightest in history. And now we go into all the seats, of course, up every 2 years. Cook Political Report on Friday shifted 6 of these close House races in Democrats' favor, including one of them here in New York. You have several critical House races here in New York. Democrats have had a significant fundraising advantage. They're feeling bullish. They think that they are going to flip the House. Regardless of whatever happens elsewhere, Democrats feel that when the dust settles, and I know it took into December last time, that they're going to be in control of the House.
Well, certainly President Trump on the ballot is a net gain to every Republican candidate for Senate and House. And as we've seen in 2016 and 2020, House Republicans consistently overperform when President Trump is on the ballot. And in both of those cycles, the prognosticators predicted that we would lose seats. We picked up seats in both of those cycles. You know, New York, I'm from New York, obviously. New York is the epicenter for the race for the House Republican majority. Republicans, when it comes to early vote, are voting increased by 50% compared to where we were in 2022. And that was the cycle when, of course, we flipped those 5 House seats. So we are working hard to turn out our votes. The most important part of this election is getting those votes. So I want to encourage all the viewers to turn out to vote. But we feel very strongly we're going to win on the issues. And Kamala Harris is underperforming Joe Biden in every single swing district across the country, if you look at Joe Biden's performance in 2020. So districts in New York that Joe Biden carried by 15 points, Donald Trump is up by 1 or 2 points. That's a 16-point significant shift, and that's one of the districts that the prognosticators moved in the wrong direction towards Democrats. I believe you're going to see a sweeping Republican victory along with the presidential on Election Day. We just need to get our voters out to vote. They are voting early. Election Day is going to be very important.
I don't think I know anybody on the GOP side of things that has a better, really in-depth knowledge of like all of these districts. You've been a lot of places, you know the data. Would you care to make a prediction about where you think this lands of the 435?
Again, I've been on the ballot with President Trump in 2016 and 2020, and Republicans surge and turn out to vote on Election Day. Not just Republicans, but unaffiliated voters as well, who President Trump is able to speak to and get them out to the polls. I think on a good night, we can win up to 10 seats, Shannon, which would be a sizable Republican majority. We're not taking anything for granted, but the issues are on our side. People want a secure border. They want a strong economy. They want peace through strength and a stronger national security around the world. On every top issue, Republicans are winning. President Trump is winning. And I think we could be in for some surprises on Election Day that House Republicans will overperform the predictions.
We're all just trying to figure out how long it's going to take for the dust to settle on all of these races. You brought up Mark Cuban earlier. You wrote an op-ed responding to his comment that President Trump doesn't surround himself with strong, intelligent women. He since issued an apology on X. I'll read part of it. He says, "I didn't get out exactly the way I thought I did. So I apologize to anyone who felt slighted or upset by my response. As I said, it wasn't about Trump voters, supporters, or employees." Do you accept his apology?
You know, certainly I think it's a trend that Democrats are saying out loud what they really believe. First, they called us deplorables. Then they called us Nazis. Then Mark Cuban said there's no strong or intelligent women around President Trump. And just yesterday, you had Kathy Hochul smearing voters who support Republicans as anti-American. Democrats are saying out loud, and they're attacking the American people and voters with that rhetoric. Look, we can have political disagreements. We're running to win on the issues. President Trump is running to unify this country on goals of securing the border, strengthening the economy. So Kamala Harris should have condemned that, and they didn't. Their campaign failed to do that, and that's offensive to so many women across this country, not just elected official women, but Gold Star moms, Gold Star wives, women veterans who are proudly supporting President Trump.
Well, we'll see where
Man, it is what it is. It's election time. Everybody's playing their best cards. It is what it is. I get it. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. What is Tim Scott saying? Tim Scott was on CNN. What is Tim Scott saying? And everybody in the chat, let me know if you voted, because you cannot be in the chat and you didn't vote or you don't plan to vote. Come on, man. You're going to have to vote. Okay? I don't care who you're voting for. I would prefer you vote for the 45th, but you're going to have to vote, man. All right, let's listen to what Tim Scott is talking about on CNN.
We are 48 hours to Election Day, but the last 48 hours haven't exactly been on message for the Republican nominee. Here with me to talk about that and much more is a big Trump supporter, Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Thank you so much for being here, sir. You have been out on the campaign trail. I know that you have been, good morning, talking to and voting, campaigning for not only Donald Trump, but Republican candidates for Senate. You're trying to turn out Black and low propensity voters, among others. The polls we've seen in the last 24 hours show evidence that late deciders are breaking for Kamala Harris. Do you think that Trump's rhetoric in these closing days is hurting him with those voters?
Well, I'll just tell you that the voters I sat down with in Detroit, Michigan on Tuesday, Ohio on Wednesday, and Philly on Thursday, African Americans, Hispanics, Jewish voters, all seem to have momentum behind Donald Trump. It's going to be a very, very good day for Donald Trump on Tuesday. And frankly, McCormick will win Pennsylvania. Without question, Bernie Moreno will win Ohio. And I'm really confident that Mike Rogers will win Michigan as well. And the reason why is that the voters are listening to our closing arguments on the border. They're listening to it on crime. They're really excited about school choice. We did a school choice event in Philly, Dana. We had a very strong cross-section of the voters from Philadelphia showing up to talk about the really important issue of making sure that their kids have a better chance for success by giving the parents choice in education. So the issues that we are focusing on in these last 48 hours are the issues that the voters say are top of their mind.
I want to get to a little bit more of that in 1 second, but I do want to just quickly jump ahead to Election Day and what happens after Election Day, because one of Donald Trump's allies, Steve Bannon, who was released from prison this week, told the New York Times that Trump should simply declare victory on election night, regardless of the results. Here's what he said. He should stand up and say, hey, I've won this. And we have teams right now that are going to make sure that this thing is not going to be stolen. That was his advice to Trump 4 years ago. That's what Trump did 4 years ago. It led directly to January 6th. Will you urge the former president not to prematurely declare victory again and allow the process to play out so the American people can trust the final legitimate outcome?
Dana, we're looking forward to a very good day on Tuesday night without any question. I'm excited to see that the battleground states that we just talked about are all leaning towards Trump. So the good news is we will have a fair election and Donald Trump will be our next president. I look at the facts that in Wisconsin, when I was in Wisconsin just recently, the voters are heading in our direction. And the good news is 2 out of 3 voters want to vote in person in Wisconsin, even though they have mail-in ballots. You just showed a stat a few minutes ago where 400,000 votes swing towards Republicans in Pennsylvania. You take the number of Democrats not voting and the number of Republicans who have registered, and that's before you add on top of that the 300,000 Jewish voters who find themselves being polarized away from the Democrat Party. This is going to be a very good election, and we, the people, will make that decision.
I appreciate your optimism. That's your job on the eve of the election. But what I'm asking about is what if he doesn't win? And the fact of the matter is that Trump is already spreading false claims about cheating in Pennsylvania. He has repeatedly predicted a massive victory, even though polls show that the race is very close. He's setting the stage for his supporters not to believe the results if he loses. Do you want him to stop doing that?
I would never tell any candidate on the ballot to talk about what happens if they lose. obviously you're going to lean into the victory, especially
I
when the
appreciate that,
latest
Senator.
polls
Forgive
in
me,
battleground
but
states
spreading
says
false
that you're
rumors.
running forward. You're running ahead of your candidate.
Totally. But
listen,
saying false
Dana,
things
you and I just
about
disagree on this one.
fraud
Totally disagree on this
is
one.
not. You think it's okay to spread false rumors about fraud and undermine the integrity of the election, regardless of what happens?
Dana, the liberal media has done a better job of spreading misinformation
come on,
than
Senator.
any candidate I've seen so far. That's true. Listen, here's the fact. We're not seeing the coverage of 2 assassination attempts on CNN
We
against
did
Donald Trump.
wall-to-wall
We're not seeing the
coverage.
comments about Kamala Harris talking about fascists, calling Donald Trump a fascist.
John Kelly
we
called
should
him a
focus on
fascist.
giving
His former
the American
chief of
people
staff.
the opportunity, giving, and she repeated it, giving people the
Well, wouldn't
opportunity
you,
to make
if
their own
Kamala
decisions.
Harris's former
That's
chief
what we
of staff
Americans-
called her a fascist? I would guess that you would repeat it too. And
Listen.
Donald Trump has called him one as well.
The bottom line is this, Dana. Bottom line is this. We should focus on the issues that the American people are talking about. They're talking about the greatest invasion across our southern border. Black communities across this country, particularly in inner cities, are talking about the devastation of the presence of Venezuelan gangs leading to more crime. We're talking about a rise in the unemployment rate of African Americans. Of course, black men are now more open to the Republican Party and specifically Donald Trump because the numbers are in. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they've done a terrible job addressing the issues
Senator.
of black men. Therefore, looking at the Donald Trump years, we saw low unemployment and high enthusiasm.
I want to allow you to make your point, which I just did, but I can't let go of the fact
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you are saying it is the media spreading claims. It is not true. It is Donald Trump who is saying things
It is
that are
true.
Donald Trump is saying things just about Pennsylvania, just one example that local officials are saying is not true. We saw what happened on January 6th as a result of that and many other things. You were there at the Capitol. Are you saying right now, you want to leave this conversation and say you are okay with his rhetoric?
Well, Dana, what I'm going to tell you is the truth. The Supreme Court and local courts in Pennsylvania have ruled in favor of the Trump campaign this election cycle.
But this has nothing
In
to do.
2020,
That has
the
nothing
Supreme
to do
Court
with
then
what he
made
is saying.
changes prospectively. You're asking the question about voter integrity, election integrity.
Right.
I'm giving you the answer. We've seen a strong shift in the right direction, and that's reasons for us to be optimistic that this election will be fair. I'm, of course, going to say my candidate's going to win because the polls reinforce that fact, and the evidence I'm seeing on the ground only highlights or magnifies the fact that Donald Trump is doing very well in the battleground states. We are not just optimistic, we are going to be motivated, which will allow us to mobilize our voters. This election will be decided by the turnout.
So if you believe, you just said that you believe that the election will be free and fair. So does that mean that you are confident that if Donald Trump loses, I know you think he's going to win, but let's just play this out. If he loses, that he will concede?
I'm confident that he's going to win without any question. And yes, I do believe that we will have a fair election. We will honor the results and we will celebrate the 47th president being Donald Trump.
Okay, let me turn to something that I want to ask you about if he does in fact win, which is he's promising a major role for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in his administration, saying he will let him, quote, go wild on medicine and vaccines. As you know, Kennedy is a big spreader of conspiracy theories about vaccines' safety and efficacy. He also declared yesterday that Trump will push to remove fluoride from public water. Should he have, as Donald Trump has said, a major role in determining America's public health policy?
Well, I think what we should do first is win, Dan, without any question. We're on the cusp of victory, so let's not talk about anything about who's going to serve in the administration until after we actually declared the winner. There's no doubt that President Trump has surrounded himself with some really fine people. I think of John Ratcliffe, who served as a director of national intelligence, and the really good work that he did. I think what you'll see this time around are the kind of people who want to serve in his administration that reflected the success that we had in 2017 through 2020. So I'm very optimistic that after we win, we'll have a serious conversation about who serves in the cabinet, who serves in the administration, and we'll have strong patriots who love America, who loves Americans, and who want to serve in this
You
cabinet.
didn't name RFK Jr.
Well, I didn't. You're right, because I'm not going to name anybody that I don't have a personal relationship with, that I don't know how they're going to serve in the cabinet. But I do have strong confidence that this administration will choose highly competent, qualified individuals to do the work that they will be assigned to.
I just want to ask one quick follow-up, and definitely did not expect to be asking you about fluoride in water 2 days before the election. But in 2018, you did introduce legislation.
No voters have, by the way, either.
Yeah. Well, in 2018, you introduced legislation to support fluoride efforts in underserved communities. Since RFK Jr. made this, he did this on social media yesterday, making this announcement that Donald Trump is going to give him support if he's in the White House, and that he will move to eliminate fluoride from water. Are you okay with that as one of the first things that happens in a second Trump term?
Then I'm laughing because I can't believe that we're having a conversation about fluoride.
I mean, take it up with RFK Jr.
Seriously, I can't take it up with RFK Jr. I'm going to let you do that part because you're good at this part. I'm going to stay in my lane, which is talking about the issues that voters are. Seriously, Dana, we are 48 hours away from the most consequential election in American history. And voters in Michigan, in Ohio, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, and North Carolina are all talking about crime and unemployment. They're talking about the border. They're talking about 70,000 Americans losing their lives to fentanyl. They're not talking about fluoride.
Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. You know what time it is. Of course, it's election period. Everybody's trying to make a move. All right, so the legendary 45th also was in North Carolina today. He did 2 cities in North Carolina and 1 in he did North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Yeah, and we streamed the Pennsylvania rally this morning, and now we're gonna see the North Carolina rally now. We've seen the Georgia rally. That's what we started with. So now we're gonna see the North Carolina rally. Double tap your screen. All you gotta do is just double tap your screen if you're trying to get the likes up. Double tap your screen, double tap your screen. Subscribe to the channel, and let's get it.
Wow, that's a nice group. That's a good sound. Thank you very much. Wow, that was very nice. Well, a very special hello to North Carolina. Thank you. We've had a lot of luck in North Carolina. We won it twice. We won every primary. We won everything this place. We even named that beautiful little granddaughter Carolina. She's like perfect. She's so beautiful. I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. I see some of them right in front of me, right? Like the man right over there who went through hell, right? Went through a little hell, but he's better looking now than he was when this little accident occurred, huh? The great Steve Scalise. Thank you, Steve. You're a better looking guy now, Steve. What the hell's going on here? He's a great guy. I'd like to begin by asking a question, a very simple one. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Very simple. No, I don't think so. With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into your country. Your country is under siege. We have criminals of all variety, murderers, drug dealers. We have some of the worst terrorists in the world in our country right now. They may live right by you. They let them in by the tens of thousands. The worst administration in the history of our country. And if we let this slip away, we should have our heads examined. I mean, we have a big lead. We have a big lead. the fake news, they don't tell you this. We have a beautiful lead. All we have to do, Mike, all we have to do is go out on Tuesday and vote. We're gonna win it. And if you do that, they can't win, okay? I wouldn't have said that a week ago. You know, this early voting, we've set records in early voting, which is something Republicans just don't do. They wait. But we have records. But you go out and vote. Don't, like, when I just came into that really beautiful plane and I have all sorts of access, you know what they're saying? They're projecting us to win, some people. I don't want you, no. I want you to forget I said that. Is everybody have a bad memory like the Democrats do, okay? They have the worst memory in history. They're the worst people too. But look, you gotta vote. So forget what I just said. Forget what the guy some guy projected me. I probably like him. But we're really doing well. We're setting records, but we have to go out like we're on the 4-yard line, not the 5-yard line, slightly better. All we have to do is carry that ball over that thing. We get into that end zone, it's over. And see, that's within our control. The nice thing is, it's within our control. That's something nice about that, right? Because we're doing really well. Amazing the way they went out. And I'll tell you something about North Carolina. So I was one of the first people down, maybe the first person. I followed him, and I followed that sucker storm. I followed it. But then I said, I better let them just get their stuff. And I figured FEMA would do a good job. They did a horrible job under the auspices of these two people. I got to say these two people. And you know, right now I'm saying, who the hell's running the country? Nobody even knows. Can you imagine President Xi of China or Putin or anybody they want to call? They say, who the hell's running that country? It's the first time we have a country where we don't even know who is running it. Nobody knows. Let's call the United States. Who do we speak to? Most of them say Donald Trump. Just call Donald Trump. You know? That's what they're saying. But we're going to bring back the American dream. It's going to be brought back at the highest level. And this is all you have to know. Kamala broke it, and I will fix it, and it'll go quickly. Yeah, thank you. So this is the big moment. We have a situation where if we do the right thing, we're going to have an America that will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, stronger than ever before. If we do the wrong thing, we're going to go home empty, and our country's going to fail. Our country's failing. We're a failing nation, by the way, in case you had any question. Hard to believe, right? But this election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. And you know, we're starting them from behind. We're like starting them from behind the end zone to bring back the football, and we're like off the field because of what they've done to this country in 4 years. What they've done to this country, they should be ashamed of themselves. This will be America's new golden age. It's going to be a golden age. We're going to do it. You know, I've gone 62 days in a row doing this. 62. Can you imagine? And last week she took 1 vacation, 2 vacations. I said, you're running for something that's 100 times bigger than the Super Bowl. How the hell do you take a day off? You can't. Even people that like me and they want me to, oh, please, sir, be nice. We just want you to enjoy your life, sir. I said, are you kidding me? We have a chance to turn this country into a miracle. It's going to be incredible what we do. I'm not taking any days off. We're not taking any days off, right, Mike? We don't believe in taking days off. No, but she takes days off. I don't think so. In fact, just the opposite. I don't think so. I was going to say, maybe she's smarter than us. I don't think so. Now, that would be a story. Wouldn't that be a big story? I don't think so. She's done a terrible job. He has, they both are. They all say, please, sir, just mention her. He's gone. I say, yeah, but, you know, he had something. I usually like to say they did, but for purposes of this speech, we'll just say that Kamala did. Because nobody knows, if I use the name Harris, nobody has any idea who the hell I'm talking about. I don't know what that is. I say Harris, and they say, who's Harris? Nobody knows. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. It's in your hands. If we win this state, that will be so big. And you know what I love about this state? You had Hurricane Helene, and I'll tell you what, I've watched a lot of hurricanes. I've never seen a hurricane that went from here down to Miami. I mean, you know, got the end result of it. It was very wet down there, not devastation like in North Carolina and Georgia. They've all, I'll tell you, states have done a job, but the FEMA's really let them down. They've really let them down. But when you look at what's happened and when you look at the kind of devastation, what was amazing to me, and I thought 100% of the people, I was not thinking about the election. As time went by, I started thinking about the election. In the meantime, I had been there, raised a lot of money for the site, saw tremendous people like Franklin Graham. They were there so early, and he's always there. He's amazing. He's got a lot of Billy Graham in him. Got a lot of Billy Graham in Franklin. And, you know, he doesn't endorse people, but he endorsed me. Is that nice? He endorsed me. He doesn't endorse people. But you know what? The amazing thing is that North Carolina was devastated, and yet when I said when it was time to start thinking, we still have to think about this election, I said, I've just seen some of the worst devastation that I've seen them all, because I used to go and follow the tornadoes, and we've seen a lot of bad things. But you had houses that were ripped apart, the foundations were ripped out of the ground. You had things that you just don't see. No trees for 2 miles. I mean, big, giant trees were ripped right out of the ground and floated down in rivers that didn't exist. Areas that never saw water before became lakes and rivers. And I said, you know, it's largely Trump areas that were hit, meaning people that like Trump, right? They're largely Trump. I said, the amazing thing is that we're going to have a problem, and I want them to just be safe. I don't want them to come back and they don't have to register, they don't have to vote. So people lost their homes. A lot of people were missing and not found, as you know. A lot of people died. Quite a few people died. And yet people losing their loved ones. And I figured, and I said to my people, I can't imagine more than 50% of what had voted in the past. I mean, I looked at areas, they were barren, they were gone, they were just devastated. And I said, so I figured if you got 50% of the vote would be lucky. I doubt you'd get, I would say 35 to 50%. And that was it. Nothing you can do about that. Just try and help people. We did. We tried to help people. Here's the amazing thing. Early voting, and the numbers finally came in. The areas that were hit so hard broke the record for registration. Think of that. And for voting. They broke the record. They never had a higher record. And these are people that don't even have a house anymore. The people of your state, the people of North Carolina are amazing. I'm telling you, it's amazing. I would have said, when I said 50%, I was sort of saying, I hope people broke the record. Every single day, and now cumulatively, the record's been broken. Now you only have to do one more thing. You have to get out on Tuesday and vote, and we're gonna break our own records. It's gonna be a big difference, big difference. So on Tuesday, stand up. You have to do it, and we have to tell Kamala that you've had enough. You're the worst vice president in history. You did the worst job ever on hurricane salvage and removal and just the security. What they've done, it's so bad. You know, they spent their money on the migrants coming in, on illegal migrants. They don't have any money. FEMA's got no money. And just look at her and say, Kamala, we're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're terrible. You're terrible. They're terrible people. There's something wrong with them, actually. There's a lot of things wrong with them. But we got to win this race. If we don't win, I can't even imagine, because we're right there. We're right at this step. Let's go get it over the line. And remember, you know, traditionally, not only traditionally, like every single time, the Republicans vote late, the Democrats vote early, and an amazing statistic is, first time ever that I know of, we have far more votes than they have in the early voting. Think of that. It's never happened before. I think last time we were hundreds of thousands of votes down. In fact, I remember I looked, I said, how the hell do we catch them? And we caught them and fairly easily won, right? We were way down, and then we came in on the Tuesday. We call them Tuesday voters. I think it has something to do with, like, you like to see your ballot go in the box. You like to be there. You want to watch it. You want to touch it and feel it. But we were hundreds of thousands of votes down last time. And the first time, and it's like a racehorse. You know, he's way out in the lead, and somebody else, Secretariat's coming behind. And Secretariat catches him, and not even that hard. But it's really something that we're going to do. It's something that's expected. And the difference is that we're actually starting from in front. I mean, so we're starting from in front. And it's an amazing thing. But the amazing thing is, with that devastation, the people in North Carolina got out and voted in record numbers. I can't believe it. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. And everything we've been fighting for so hard to achieve for the past 9 years, it all comes down to the next 2 days. We've been waiting 9 years for this, if you think. We've been waiting 9 years. And don't forget, we got more votes than any sitting president in history last time. We won in 2016. We got millions and millions more votes. You know, Barack Hussein Obama got far fewer votes the second time. Remember, did anyone ever hear Barack Hussein Obama? He's been nasty, hasn't he? Oh, he's been a nasty person. He's been a little nasty. I'm not, you know, I'm supposed to be a nice person. Oh, I was so happy to see that he was nasty. It's now or never. This moment will never come again. Never going to come again. 2 days. 2 days. For the sake of your family, for the sake of your country, for your freedom, you have to get out and vote. And, you know, I love that phrase because I saw it with a fighter. It was in the 15th round. That was when the fights had the championship rounds. It was unbelievable. Like maybe Roberto Duran, and he was a little bit behind, and he was a great champion. And they said the same thing as I said, very similar, except they were a little more violent about it as they smack him. They're smacking him. Roberto, this is for your family. And he got up and he went wild and he knocked the hell out of the guy. You ever see that? It's great. I love that stuff. Don't we love it? We love like guys like Dana White that do such a good job, right? UFC. Yeah, but he said Roberto, and they're smacking him. And, you know, it's a different kind of a champion. But we're champions, and this whole state, everybody here is a champion. We can all be big winners. So everybody, and grab anybody you can. Just grab them and say, we're going to vote. You know, who wants to watch sports on television when you have that? This is the biggest sport of all. I'm telling you, I was saying, do you think this is bigger than the Super Bowl by 100 times or 1,000 times? It's like 1,000 times. These guys, so much is made of the Super Bowl. This is 1,000 times bigger than the Super Bowl. With your help, we are going to defeat Kamala Harris. We are going to win North Carolina. And we are going to make America great again. That 4 years of Kamala have delivered nothing but economic hell for American workers. Her inflation disasters, they caused inflation. They screwed up my energy policy, and the prices went up and everything else. It's real simple. In addition to that, they way overspent. They got trillions and trillions of dollars. Hopefully we get rid of Mitch McConnell pretty soon, because he helped them. That guy. Can you believe he endorsed me? Can you? Boy, that must have been a painful day in his life. Every time I think of it, he didn't have to do that. He provided the necessary votes. What a disgrace. But we have great Republicans running, and you have one of the best of all right here, David McCormick. You know that. Where's David? Is he around someplace? You know, we just left him. He's a great guy. But her inflation disaster has made life unaffordable, and the cost to families is $30,000 a year just in higher prices. That's what you paid. And just this week, we had the worst jobs report in modern history with only 12. Okay, so I can't believe this has happened. Thank you, sir. I can't believe it. The report came out, they thought it was going to come out after the election. This is the worst job and jobs report that I've ever seen. So usually it's, 250,000 jobs have been, because, you grow and it's almost automatic. So I guess you saw this, Steve. That was probably the first thing you saw. 12,000 jobs were created. That's like for Walmart. That's not for a country, big country. 30,000 private sector jobs were lost. They were killed in a single month, 30,000 jobs. These were the numbers that just came out. Nearly 100,000 manufacturing jobs were wiped out from the beginning of the year. Those are the really primo jobs. 150,000 Americans joined the unemployment rolls in October, and nearly 250,000, 250,000 people dropped out of the labor force. That's like a depression. Just think, a few months ago, they fraudulently claimed, and it was a fraud. They claimed, this is a serious fraud, that they had 818,000 jobs were created in the country, and none were created, zero. You know about that, right? And they got caught by a whistleblower. A whistleblower blew the whistle on Crooked Joe and Kamala. They're crooked people. They're bad people. You got to win this. They get them out of there fast. So think of that. They created 818,000 jobs. Wow. And even that only brought it up to being okay, but it was, it wasn't like a disaster, but it brought it up to okay numbers. People were a little surprised because everyone knows the economy stinks. So all these jobs, and it added up to being, not a big story. But a whistleblower was in there where they do the statistics, and he couldn't take it. And he blew it out of the water. And the press, the fake news back there, they hardly covered the story. And now they've just revised past job reports down another 112,000. So that's almost 1 million jobs. And it was all fake reporting. If I did that, they'd say, all right, let's start up. Here we go again. Let's go. Because I've been under investigation more than the late, great Alphonse Capone. Has anyone ever heard of him? He's a lovely man. If he was with Mike Lindell for dinner, and Mike offered him a couple of pillows, and if he didn't sleep well because he didn't like Mike's pillows, Mike had almost no chance of living. He would dispose of Mike somewhere in a foundation of a building or something. You would never see Mike again. Mike does not want to have dinner with Scarface, right? I've been under investigation, Mike, more than Scarface. Can you believe it? Alphonse Capone, the meanest of them all. He was the meanest. If he didn't like somebody, it was over. He said, you know, I just left another good place in North Carolina. I had some of the best quips today. You have a wit about you. Who the hell made that say? Gee. No, I had some guy in the other one. He was screaming that stuff, and it was so good I had to stop, and the place went crazy. Now I have a new genius back here. No. That's amazing. Meanwhile, 100% of the net jobs created, you've heard this, it's an amazing thing. They've all gone, 100% have gone to migrants. Did you know that? All the jobs that were created. These are depression-type numbers, and that's where we're heading if she's elected. You know, I always said, I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. It's so terrible. You know, he became president, and then fairly shortly after, they ended up with the greatest depression of our times. 1929 style depression. That's what you're going to have with her. She has no clue. She's like a child with economics. Have you ever seen answers like she gives? They ask her a question about the economy, and she says, I grew up in a middle-class family, and we had a grass yard. Oh, it was beautiful grass. Oh. Under my leadership, we are quickly going to turn this economic nightmare into an economic miracle. We're going to turn it around very fast. You know why? For a lot of reasons, but you know why? Because we have a thing called liquid gold, and we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation in the world, including Saudi Arabia and Russia. And we took it from number 4 to number 1 in 2 years, and I was way number 1, way higher than the two of them. And we were going to become energy dominant very shortly, and then we had a nasty little election that took place. And this time they're watching a little bit differently, I guess. Who would have thought that could have happened? But we're going to make America wealthy again. We're going to make America affordable again. We're going to get those prices down. We're going to get them down quickly. And much of it's going to be coming right from underneath your feet. Much of it. And we can do that. Other countries can't. So it's a great thing that we have. And we're 2 days away from the best jobs and biggest paychecks and brightest economic future the world has ever seen. We're going to turn it around fast. And you know an industry I want to bring back? A lot of you aren't going to care about this so much because you're not in that industry. The furniture industry. You had the best craftsmen in the whole world. I used to come down, I'd build a hotel, and I'd always go to North Carolina and come to the different, I knew every guy, every place. See her a lot. And then one day I said, what happened to that company? I love them. They did a building for me 2 years ago. I said, what happened? Sir, they're closed. They've basically moved into China. The guys have stayed here. The talent, they're so talented. I used to take an arm of a chair. I say, could you do a little more action on it? Sir, watch. Ding, 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 ding. I said, that's it. Would you like us to carve your face on the chair? Yes. It was like the greatest artists in the world. These guys were unbelievable, what they could do. And so then we start buying furniture from China. And you know what happens? I build this beautiful hotel. Happened a few times, not good, very bad. A guy comes in, he's got lots of money, and he comes into the hotel, wants to impress his wife and or girlfriend. And he comes, and he comes in, and he has this beautiful chair, looked the same. Actually not as good, but it looked good enough. And he sits down in the chair, and the chair collapses, and he goes on his ass. And then I get sued. This was China. No, we're going to get that business back. We're going to do it through a serious use of tariffs, because you know what? We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Nobody else took in 10 cents. Nobody else Barack Hussein Obama, you know what he took in from China? Nothing. Nobody did. Nobody took in anything. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I saved our steel industry. I put tariffs on the steel. You wouldn't have any steel. You wouldn't. For all the things you make, you wouldn't have any steel. You'd use plastic. But then you'd find out plastic isn't quite as strong as steel. You'd say, we don't want to build a plastic gun or something that you build. And no, we did a hell of a job. But I took in hundreds of billions. And a lot of people like me. A lot of business people like me. The steel industry likes me. And I wouldn't approve, by the way, the sale of U.S. Steel. This was a great, great company 60, 70 years ago. Our greatest company. And now, as you know, Japan wants to buy it. And I like Japan. I loved Abe. Shinzo Abe was assassinated. He was a great man, that one. He was loved in his country, too. He was a great friend of mine. But I went back to him. I said, Shinzo, we have to talk. He goes, I know what you're going to say, Donald. I know what you're going to say. I said, how do you know what I'm going to say? It has to do with the trade agreements, right? I said, yes, it does. How did you know that, Shinzo? Because you're smart. And nobody ever came to see us about that. We would have been open because it was a one-way ripoff of the United States. Japan got everything, we got nothing. And when I said to him, Shinzo, I have to see you, he's a friend of mine. I said, I hate to tell you, but we're going to have to change this. He said, I know what you're talking about. I said, you really understood it? He said, nobody ever came to us. We would have done something. We'll end up, unfortunately, having to do more for you than somebody else, which turned out to be right. And don't forget, I started from a little bit of a bad base because we had an agreement. So, it's better if we didn't have an agreement. But he was great. We made a new deal. We made a new deal with South Korea. We made a great deal with China, but because of COVID, I don't even talk about one of the best deals I made ever. China has to buy $50 billion worth of our product. And I heard it was going to be 15. I said, how much are they buying to my negotiators? Sir, $15 billion. I thought they said 50, Mike. I mistook it. 15, they said. So I said, how much? 15 billion. I said, oh. So then they come in, the deal's almost finished. I said, tell me about the deal. Sir, they're going to buy $15 billion. I said, not 15. You told me 50. They said, no, we said 15, sir. I said, you didn't say 50. You told me 50. I think they were probably right, but I didn't care. I stayed there. I said, go back and tell them it's 50. And they did. And you know what? They agreed to it. Can you believe it? But I don't talk about it because of COVID. We did a great job in COVID, but nobody knew what it was. Nobody had any idea what the hell was happening. But it came out of the lab, you know that, the Wuhan lab, and every country in the world suffered so greatly. $60 trillion and tremendous amounts of death all over the world. Look at Italy and France. The countries were just destroyed over what I think was just incompetence. I don't believe they did it on purpose. They took a big hit too, by the way. At the end, it looked like they escaped it. Man, did it get them. It got China hard at the end. But Kamala talks about fixing the economy. I saw her yesterday. We're going to, when I get to office, she said, when I get to office, she's in office now. Just get the guy out of bed and tell him to sign the document. She said, when I get to office, we're going to do this and that and, all stuff that she's never going to do anyway. And they say, why didn't she do it? Why doesn't she do it now? I said that in the debate. Why didn't you just do this stuff? I'm going to do this and that. But this was the worst yesterday because she said, I'm going to do, as soon as I get to office. She's in office now. So if it's any good, do it now. But what she's doing isn't good, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. Kamala's plan will impose the largest tax hike in American history and raise taxes on the typical American family by more than $3,000 a year. And she lies. Everything. She said, I'm going to impose a sales tax on the people. No, I'm going to impose a tariff on the outside world, and they're going to pay it for their privilege of coming in and robbing our jobs and robbing our companies for years and years. They like to say that the sales tax is created by a tariff. No, it's not. This is look, I had a lot of tariffs. I took it. The most beautiful word in the dictionary to me is tariff. If I had more time, I'd say, no, it's third. I say religion and love. Religion, love, and tariff in that order. But I don't have enough time to do this, Steve. I got to get going here. I'm a little bit late. So, most beautiful word is the word tariff, because it's going to make us so rich. And we're going to save our companies. We're going to stop them from leaving. If I were here, I would have imposed a tariff on these people that drop furniture in our country for 1/3 the price, and it was no good. The furniture was garbage. I would have saved all your companies. Nobody would have, but I'm going to do it now because, they're still, if they want our companies to move and get out, if we build a car and we send it to China, they won't accept it. If we send it to even Japan, I mean, they're friendly, but, some of our worst trading partners are the ones we get along with, like the European Union. They're brutal. They're brutal. It's, this nice village, let's go to a village. Austria, and all these wonderful places. They're brutal. We're going to lose $350 billion with the European. We lose with everybody. And it can be changed around in literally a matter of hours. And the president has the right to impose the tariffs on these countries that have been hurting us. They've really been hurting us. It's so ridiculous. They end up closing, everybody loses their job, then they make it in their country, and then they send it back to us with no tax, no nothing. And we lose that. We lose the company, we lose the jobs, we lose sort of everything, and it's so stupid. And all we have to do is the same thing, but we have a big advantage because we have the pot of gold. See, ours is really the pot of gold. Ours is the one that they want, but we won't have that pot of gold very long because the way these fools are running our country, we're going to be a busted country pretty soon. My plan will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and for our seniors, no tax on Social Security benefits. And our seniors need it. Our seniors, because most of the seniors are on a fixed income. I'm not, but many of them are. Did you see Truth Social yesterday? It's become a rocket ship, like Elon's rocket ship. Truth. No, it's become a rocket ship. But most seniors are on, fixed income, and then they have to pay tax. I don't want them, because by my doing that, you will be at least breaking even for the pain that these people have caused you by allowing this inflation. Think of it. You would have had no inflation. You would have had no war with Ukraine and Russia. That wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have October 7th with Israel. They had no money. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money. They were totally broke. Everybody was broke over there. The bad guys, the good guys were doing fine. And you know what? Everybody would have done fine. All we wanted to do, and they would have done it, such an opportunity. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapons are the greatest single threat to our country, but to the entire world. The power. I rebuilt our nuclear base. I rebuilt our whole military. We had jet fighters that were 52 years old. We rebuilt it with a lot of help from some of you great people in the Senate and congressmen who are here today, actually, a lot of them. And we rebuilt our military. And in rebuilding, I rebuilt, either renovated or bought brand new nuclear. And I know what it does. I know what it does. My uncle told me many, many years ago, he was a professor. He told me many, many years ago about nuclear. And I said, there's no way, Uncle John. But he was right. He was right. He was very smart. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. I'm going to drill. And I'm going to cut your energy prices in half within 12 months. You're going to be cut in half. 12 months. And we built 500 miles of wall. I heard the wall. We built 500 miles more, 571 miles of wall. We're going to add 200 more. Think of it. We were going to add 200 more. And incredible what's happened. It's really incredible to see the devastation that they've left in our country. And we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around so fast. You're going to be so happy. It's going to be a miracle to bring back millions of jobs. We're going to lower taxes on businesses, but only for those businesses that make their product in America. And if these companies don't make their products here, then they will pay a tariff when they send their products into the United States for the privilege of competing with our workers and are now protected companies. We're going to protect these companies that move in. They're going to move in by the thousands. They're going to move right here, but they're going to move in by the thousands. And we're going to protect. We're going to really protect these companies. We have to, otherwise they'll leave just like the other companies left. They're going to be protected, and you know who else is going to be protected? Our workers are going to be protected, and they will not have had a jobs fair like we're going to have. You know, I deal with, I don't know, there's something nice about automobiles and automobile production. And I was in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club making a speech a few weeks ago. And Detroit's been devastated, you know, just years and years and years of abuse by other countries. They took their cars. A friend of mine builds auto plants, and I said, you know, about a year and a half ago, I said, I want to see an auto plant. He said, okay, when do you want to do it? I said, anytime. He said, you'll have to come to Mexico. I said, why Mexico? He said, because that's where the big ones are being built. I said, you mean so they build them and they send them into the U.S. across the border? Yes. The big one, the biggest one of all is being built by China. It's massive. And I'm going up then a couple of weeks ago to Detroit, and I'm trying to explain to them what's going on. They're stealing their businesses. They're taking everything. And I said, listen, very important. We're not going to let this happen. And I let everybody know at this forum, and actually a little before the forum, that I was going to impose a 100% tax on any cars that are coming in from Mexico made in this plant that was only built to rip off Michigan and rip off Detroit. This plant was bigger than practically all of their plants put together. It would have devastated them. And I made the statement very strongly, and that was about it. Sort of forgot about it. And I saw him like a couple of weeks ago in the audience. And I said, would you do me a favor? Tell that gentleman, his name is John, I want to see him. He builds auto plants, the biggest, I think he's the biggest guy, biggest in the world. He's very good at it. And he said, comes backstage. I said, hey, John, how's that big plant that you're building or getting ready to build in Mexico, owned by China? How is it? Oh, sir, that's been dropped. I said, what? He said, they dropped it quietly last week. They're not going to build the plant because they think you're going to become president and you're going to put tariffs on the cars that come across. And they've decided that they'd lose a fortune, and they've dropped the project. How about that? Does the press write that? I don't think so, but that's okay. You know who knows it? The people of Michigan, because we're up in Michigan too, and we're going to win Michigan, and not necessarily because of that, but we're going to win Michigan. But isn't that beautiful? And I did that without even being president. It's pretty good. So we're going to protect you, and we're going to protect them, and we're going to protect everybody. We're going to protect. And by the way, if they want to build the plant anywhere in the country, here, or I don't care where. I'd love to have a couple of them built right in the middle of Detroit, to be honest with you. Wouldn't that be nice? You know, they've suffered badly. No, they've been ripped. But they're going to build it. I said, if you want to build the plant, and I told him to tell the people, big, massive company, tell the people I would be honored if they want to build a big, beautiful plant here, hire our workers, we're fine with that. And we're not going to charge them any tariffs, you see. I say the way you get rid of the tariffs is to build your plants in the United States of America. That's what we want. And they're going to be coming in here by the hundreds and by the thousands, that we're going to have them come right here. So it will be really, in the truest sense of the word, it's going to be America first. It's all about America first. As we rescue our economy, I will also restore our borders. And over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted on our people. What she has done to our country, and him too, but he put her in charge. She never made one call. Border Patrol endorsed me 2 weeks ago. You know that? They said, he's the greatest president in history. I said, does that include Abraham Lincoln and George Washington? They actually said, yes, it does. But they also said, one other guy, he's sort of a young guy, like 38, he said, Border Patrol, he said, he's the greatest president in my lifetime. I wasn't impressed with that statement. So I liked the other one better, the captain, I liked him much better. He said, big difference between in history or in my lifetime if you're 38 years old. I think he was young, I think he was like 30. He's the best president in my lifetime. I mean, you know, give me a break. They're great guys, though. These are great guys. And they gave me the strongest endorsement. They said that, the best president, and the best president by far we've ever had on the border. We had okay, put that sign up, my favorite sign. Put that sign. This is my favorite graph. Oh, I sleep with that. I wrap it around, I kiss it at night. Because without that graph, I'm not here. I hate to tell you. I'm not here without that. But importantly, look at the big red arrow at the bottom. That was the lowest point of illegal immigration ever that we had known in recorded history of our country. And look what happened. That was when I left. That was my last day. It was the lowest point, and that included human trafficking, and mostly in women. I hate to tell you that. Do you know that they're missing 325,000 children, and the press doesn't talk about that? Think of what that means. You know, people say, oh, 325, 325. Do you know what that means? 325,000 children are missing or dead. They came in through the border. Many of them probably are slaves. They say sex slaves, actually, but many of them are slaves. And they came in through 325,000. Their parents will probably, for the most part, never see them again. What a place we're living in. What a place we're living. But that graph illustrates how good. And then take a look to the right. That's when these lunatics took over. Kamala. That's when she took over. Our great borders are. Those numbers are unprecedented anywhere in the world. There's never been a third world country that allowed. Millions and millions of people came in. Look at that. It's like an Elon Musk rocket ship. Look at it. No, look at those numbers. So it's a very sad thing. She has violated her oath, eradicated our sovereign border, and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions from all around the world. They come from Venezuela. They come from the Congo in Africa. A lot of people coming from the Congo. And where in the Congo? From their jails. They're emptying their jails into the United States of America, stealing countless American lives. People are being killed on a daily basis. Today, I want you to hear directly from a mother whose world has been shattered because of the open borders, stupidity of Kamala. Please.
Sunday night, I asked her to not stay up super late because of her coming to work with me in the morning first to do her summer school. She said, okay. I told her good night and I love you. I went to bed, not realizing that that was going to be the last time I saw her.
Huh? We're best friends. Yes. We're going to shake it again.
I woke up to notice she wasn't in her bed. I'm in my heart trying not to lose my mind because I don't know where she is. I finally remembered her phone had a location on, and her phone was pinging just 2 minutes down the road, right behind the skate park. I start driving to the direction the phone was being pinged at, and I see a couple cop cars with lights on. I see yellow tape, and immediately my heart drops and sinks to the bottom of my stomach. My daughter's hands and ankles were both bound. She was strangled to death, left with no pants. And I know in my heart, she fought incredibly hard. She was not going down without a fight.
We begin with two men we're learning are charged with capital murder tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
Apprehended, then released by Border Patrol less than 3 weeks before Jocelyn's death. The men accused of killing Jocelyn Nungare are affiliated with the gang known for brutal violence.
Kamala Harris was in charge of immigration and our borders. If we had better border policies and not open borders and not these catch and release policies, I truly believe this all could have been prevented. Under her being vice president of this country, my daughter's life was ripped away from her. She had her entire life ahead of her.
Happy birthday, dear Jocelyn.
My daughter is 6 feet in the ground based off of policies that she allowed to keep. Kamala Harris did have one job, and she not only failed, not me, she failed my daughter, she failed Jocelyn. You know, she was only 12. President Trump reached out, gave me his sincerest condolences as not a former president, but just as a father, someone who cares. I believe Donald Trump needs to be back in office. I can at least know that my next child will be safe in this country.
Thank you. That's taking place in different forms, different ages, but it's taking place in our country now by the thousands. These are some of the worst criminals in the world that are coming in. These are criminals the likes of which we've never even seen. They make our criminals look like nice people. These are tough, tough people. MS-13, they don't like using guns because they're not painful. They use knives. And they chop people up, Long Island. And if we didn't have the great patriots of ICE, who are tough people, but they love our country, and Border Patrol, they're great. They want to do their job. They're not letting them do the job. But if we didn't have those people, it would be unbelievable. We moved thousands of MS-13 gang members out of our country. And that's why Border Patrol says there's never been anybody like Trump. Tom Homan said it. He said he's the best we'll ever have. You'll never get better. We had a perfect thing. When this guy used to go to the beach all the time, all he had to do was leave it the way we had it. And it was just getting better, better, better from years of abuse. But we had it down to a science, and we'll do it again. The difference is it's much worse now than it was in 2016. You know, in 2016, I got elected, I think mostly because of the border. But that border was nothing compared to what you have right now. We put up all that wall. We got Mexico to give us thousands of soldiers free of charge. I said to them, look, if you don't give them, I'm going to put tariffs on your cars coming over. But other than, and they said, first they said, we are not going to do that. After I said the tariffs, they said, sir, it would be our honor to give you as many soldiers as you'd like. And we had a very safe border, and we did a good job. And most of these things that you'd watch now or that you read about, I think all of them, they would have never happened. The day I take the oath of office, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. And when you vote on Tuesday, vote in honor of Jocelyn and Laken Riley of Georgia, and Rachel Morin and every American who has been stolen from us by Kamala's border betrayal. It's a total betrayal. Remember, not once in 4 years did she call anybody in Border Patrol. How are we doing? I called them all the time. I drove them crazy. How are we doing? How's it going? Never once did she call. Never once did she visit. She visited one time in an area that had nothing to do. You know, she liked it. But essentially, never once did she visit. If she wins, you will live the rest of your life as second-class citizens in your own country. That's what's happening. I used to say, not so long ago, Venezuela went bad. You know, Venezuela 18 years ago was a thriving country. They had elections, they had everything. And then one day it went bad. And the same thing happened there as happened here. Same kind of scum that we have to deal with all the time. Guys like Adam Shifty Schiff, can you believe it? Fake investigations all the time. The use of the FBI and the DOJ to go after their political opponent who's kicking their ass. Isn't that great? But our nation will be look, we're going to be dominated by this migrant invasion soon. And if she ever won, she would open the border immediately. The first day, Steve would agree with this, they'll open the border. They want open borders. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. Either they hate our country, or they maybe want to put them on the voting rolls. That's probably the reason. Or they're stupid, but they're not stupid, because you can't be so stupid when you do what they do in elections, right? If I win, the American people will be the rulers of this country again. The United States is now an occupied country. Can you imagine I say that and nobody disputes it? If you take a look at what's happening in Colorado and Aurora, take a look where they're taking over complexes of apartments and big swaths of area. But all over the country it's happening. A lot of towns don't like to say it because they think it's bad publicity and people won't move into that town or that little city. But it's the big cities too. It's New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. But it will soon be an occupied country no longer. It's not gonna take long. You know, these guys come in, they're vicious, violent, and like military age, but they have military quality equipment, military quality guns, rifles, equipment. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. It's going to be Liberation Day. On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. These towns, think of those words. These towns are being invaded and conquered. What the hell? And nobody disputes me on that. And we will put the vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country as fast as we can. And to expedite removals of Tren de Aragua, that's the big gang, the vicious gang from Venezuela, and MS-13 and other gangs. They're savages, savage gangs, savage people. They're savage people, actually. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. See how far back we have to go? Because they didn't play games back then. They weren't politically correct. They wanted to run a country, and sometimes you have to be strong. 1798 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. We'll get it done fast. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America. They're sanctuaries for criminals. Everything Kamala says is a lie. She has no vision, no idea. She has no solutions for anything. In fact, all she can talk about, this was the other night, they'd ask her a question, she'd say, Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump did that. All she can say is Donald Trump.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I will speak about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, 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 Trump.
What the hell did I have to do with it? That's all she talked. What are you going to do for the economy? Donald Trump? Man, is she bad? How about 60 Minutes? You see that? Where 60 Minutes defrauded the American public. You saw that? She gave an answer that was so bad, it was grossly incompetent. It was like taking 1,000 words and throwing them on a wall. And so they did something that I never thought, that I never even heard of. They took her entire answer out, every word, Steve. Every word taken out. And they inserted a new answer. And they got caught. So watch what happens. We actually, on your behalf, if you don't mind, we sued CBS and 60 Minutes, okay? Because you know what that is? That's election interference fraud. So their news organization, 60 Minutes is their star. CBS's news organization in the middle of an election, think of that, changed the answer to a question in its entirety, right? I mean, I don't know how they respond to it, but they'll figure a way, I guess. But we did. We brought a suit on Friday against them for a lot of money. That's so terrible. No, I've never heard of a thing like that. I think it's the worst, most egregious broadcast fraud I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things happen with these people, but that's about the worst I've seen. Kamala's campaign is running on nothing but hate and demonization, calling half of America now garbage, you know. Joe got up and he said, they're garbage, you're garbage, I'm garbage. Meanwhile, Kamala says she would not do anything different. I won't do one thing different. What would you do differently? Remember the 325,000 children. Wouldn't that be nice if they handle it differently? Remember all of these things that we talk about tonight? She said, I wouldn't do anything different. Take a look.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
Gut-wrenching new details in the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national who crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022.
Two men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder and the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A fifth illegal immigrant accused of attacking two New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Only 18% say the economy is in excellent or good condition.
US inflation has hit a new 40-year high, increasing by 9.1% over the financial year.
Authorities say Train Day Aragua, which has been linked with more than 100 criminal investigations here in the U.S., has now been found operating its criminal enterprise in apartment complexes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
Can you believe it? So if you want to end this disaster, you must get out and vote. We have to stop what's going on in our country. We're not going to have a country anymore. This will be Venezuela on steroids. We're pleased to be joined by House Majority Leader, a great person. He's been through hell. And he was shot, violently and viciously shot. And I told him before, you're better looking now than you were years ago prior to that. But I tell you, you are something. This man was, I went to visit him in the hospital, and one thing I found out, his wife loves him. She was so devastated. I've been to areas where the wives didn't care that much. This wife, he's got a great wife, and she loves him. She was so devastated she couldn't even think. Steve Scully, stand up, Steve. Look great, amazing. He got hit hard, Mike, right? He got hit hard. He's a great guy. Thank you, Steve, very much. Say hello to your wife and family. Members of Congress, Greg Murphy and Dan Bishop. Thank you, fellas. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Real champions. Candidate for Congress, and this is a fantastic woman. She has my complete and total endorsement. Lori Buckout. Lori Buckout. Great, Lori. She's something, I'll tell you. I hear you're doing very well. I looked at some good poll numbers. You're doing very well. Close it out. Get out, vote for her. Lori's great. And North Carolina GOP Chairman Jason Simmons. Jason, what a job. Great. We're doing good, right? Yeah, we're doing good. Looks like good. Looks like real good. Somebody told me they pulled out. You know what pulling out means? That means they pulled out. They took their money and they ran because they weren't seeing good. I shouldn't tell them that, but, you know, I guess people will figure it out. I might as well be the one. Yeah, they pulled out. I also want to send our prayers to everyone here in North Carolina who's still recovering from this unbelievable hurricane, the size of it, Hurricane Helene. Kamala's hurricane response was a disgrace and it was a betrayal. It was just reported that almost 50% of phone calls sent to FEMA were unanswered. They didn't answer. They don't have the money because they're bringing in all the criminal migrants. You cannot trust this person to be president of the United States. She destroyed San Francisco, and she will destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. Here are the facts, just in closing. Kamala is a radical left Marxist, rated even worse than crazy Bernie Sanders or Pocahontas herself. She destroyed our economy. She was an original creator of defund the police movement, and anybody who wants to defund the police for even 1 week or 1 day is not worthy of being president of the United States to me. Kamala vowed to abolish ICE, and she pledged to confiscate your guns and endorsed a total ban on handgun ownership. She even called for free sex changes for illegal aliens in detention at taxpayer expense. And perhaps, worst of all, she never worked at McDonald's. No, it was a lie. It was a lie. She's a liar. With your vote on Tuesday, we are going to fire Kamala. We are going to save America. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories back to America. And we're going to bring them back, a lot of them back to North Carolina. We love this place. It's always been so good. So good, just so good. We will build American, we will buy American, and we will hire American. I will end the war in Ukraine. Would have never happened if I were president. I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III, most importantly, from happening. I mean, we got people negotiating on our behalf. They don't have a clue. You'll end up in World War III. Yeah, it's true. We will crush violent crime and give our police the support, protection, resources, and respect that they so dearly deserve. We will strengthen and modernize our military. I rebuilt our entire military. We then gave a big chunk to Afghanistan. Wasn't that a lovely gift? And now every year they have a parade where they go down their main boulevard showing our beautiful equipment that we gave them so stupidly. We will build a missile defense shield, all made in the USA. Big one, big beauty. A lot of it's going to be made right here in North Carolina. We will rebuild our cities, including our capital in Washington, D.C. We will get all the graffiti off of those beautiful marble columns. And we'll make those cities safe, clean, and beautiful again. We will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag. We will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell off our schools and out of our schools. I will defend religious liberty. I will restore free speech, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms, Second Amendment, which is under siege. After years of building up foreign nations, defending foreign borders, and protecting foreign lands, we're finally going to build up our nation, defend our borders, and protect our citizens and our lands. We will stop illegal immigration once and for all. We will not be invaded. We will not be occupied. We will not be overrun. We will not be conquered. We will be a free and proud nation once again. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope. And of course, it will be filled with the American dream once again. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris and stop her left-wing, radical, crazy agenda of open borders and all other things. And we're going to have on Tuesday a landslide that's too big to rig, too big to rig. Right, Mike? Right? So please get out and vote. Get your husband. I know he'd like to watch television that day. Say, Harry, get the hell out of this because you're going to vote for the president today, Harry. But darling, I'd like to watch a little more television. Get up, Harry. We know who the boss is, right? For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth. With your vote in this election, most important election we've ever had, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It's very simple. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And 2 days from now, think of it, 2 days. Oh, it's so beautiful. 2 days from now, it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. We'll get it turned fast. With your help, from now until Election Day, 2 days, we will restore America's promise, and we will take back the nation that we love so much. We love our nation. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever surrender. Right, Steve? Together we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. Gonna win, win, win. November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country, and you will be so proud that you cast your vote the way you did. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. It's going to be so strong. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, North Carolina.
Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen, just like that. Subscribe to the channel. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. You know what time it is. The legendary 45th, who most people say will be the 47th, had 3 rallies yesterday. It is currently 1:52 a.m. in Georgia, and it is the 4th of November, 2024. Tomorrow being Monday, he is going to have 4 rallies, 2 in Pennsylvania and 1 in Michigan, 1 in North Carolina. These are a battleground state. Pennsylvania, we know. So it's like he's doing all he can to win Pennsylvania and North Carolina, because if he wins Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Michigan, then we finna be in the White House. I'm gonna take my daughter to the White House to go visit the President of the United States. Oh, y'all go out and vote on Tuesday, okay? Go out and vote tomorrow, Monday. Go out and vote on Tuesday, okay? Come on, man. We gotta take our kids to the White House to see the greatest, the legendary 45th term 47. Okay, this is my opinion. I don't know what you think. So shout out to Burton Knight. He says thanks for the channel. God bless you, man. Andrea, that's the mother of the channel. Okay, shout out to Andrea. Zane, you know what time it is. God bless you, man. Corey B. Yeah. Corey B. Uh, where is it? Brockton Bench. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your name, bro. But you have been very active in the chat, even though you're a Democrat. I don't care. I'm just thankful and grateful that you're here. God bless you. And everybody in the chat, you guys are the best. We're gonna be back here in the morning. The first rally start at 10 a.m. just like yesterday, Sunday. Today's Monday already because it's past midnight. So just like yesterday, Sunday, his first rally started at 10 a.m. or 10:30, and that was in Pennsylvania. So he's starting his rally tomorrow, 10 a.m. in North Carolina. I am gonna be streaming. So you guys, God bless you. If you tune in, God bless you. If you gotta go to work, don't be streaming from work, or maybe who knows, bro. All right. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. Believe in God. If you're trying to start a business, go ahead and start now. This is your sign, okay? If you're trying to start something that has been in your heart, go ahead and start now. You never know, okay? You never know. I've learned a lot from doing this with you guys. I've learned a lot, okay? And I'm just grateful and thankful to God. Thankful to you guys for being here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like the live stream like this. Okay? Easy. Like. Just like that. All right. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. And thank you to all the veterans in the chat. Okay? Thank you to all the veterans in the chat. Thank you. See you tomorrow, man. God bless you. Genesis is signing out.